The noise of this world has made humanity forget the most powerful force in the universe, the creative silence of God within you. In the next few hours, I will prove to you that silence is not emptiness, but the womb of all creation. When you learn to commune with this divine silence through these 20 practices, your soul will begin to radiate a light so bright that darkness cannot touch you. My beloved friend, I know your heart aches with a longing you cannot name. I know your mind feels like a monkey jumping from branch to branch, never finding rest. You wake in the morning already exhausted by the weight of thoughts that never cease. You've tried meditation apps that promise instant peace. You've read spiritual books that fill your head with beautiful ideas but leave your heart still empty. You've attended workshops and seminars, hoping someone would finally give you the key to unlock the prison of your restless mind. Yet still, you feel disconnected from the divine. The world's noise drowns out your soul's whisper, leaving you anxious and unfulfilled. You sense there's something greater calling you, but can't hear it clearly through the static of modern life. I understand this pain intimately because I too once lived in that darkness. As a young man in India, I felt this same desperate hunger for God, this same confusion about why the divine seemed so distant when the scriptures promise God lived within my very heart. I spent years searching in temples and ashrams, studying with learned teachers, performing elaborate rituals, thinking that if I just found the right technique or the perfect guru, I would finally touch the face of the beloved. For over 4 decades now, I have been blessed to guide souls from darkness into light. Not through my own power, I am nothing more than dust at the feet of the divine, but through these timeless practices that have transformed lives for thousands of years, I am simply a postman, delivering letters from the divine to your waiting heart. These letters have been written in the language of silence since the beginning of time, and they contain everything your soul has been longing to hear. Many people believe silence means emptiness, the absence of something valuable. They think it's boring, pointless, a waste of time that could be spent doing something productive. But I tell you with absolute certainty, silence is the fullness of God. It is not empty space but pregnant possibility. It is not the absence of sound but the presence of the divine speaking in the language that existed before words were ever spoken. Others think that spiritual practices are complicated rituals, meant only for monks and nuns who have renounced the world. They believe you must retreat to a cave in the Himalayas or spend decades studying ancient texts in foreign languages to touch the hem of God's garment. These 20 practices I will share with you today are so simple that a child could understand and perform them, yet so profound they will transform your entire existence from the inside out. When you faithfully practice these silent disciplines, and I mean faithfully, not perfectly, for perfection is not required, only sincerity, you will experience a luminous peace that radiates from within you, so visible that others will see it glowing in your very presence. You will receive intuitive guidance that leads you to right action in every situation, as if an invisible hand were guiding your steps along the path of greatest good. You will feel the magnetic attraction of divine opportunities and soul connections, as people and circumstances align themselves to support your highest spiritual growth. You will discover an unshakable faith that sustains you through any storm life may bring, a faith not built on beliefs or concepts but on direct personal experience of God's love surrounding and filling you always. Most beautiful of all, you will know the indescribable joy of recognizing yourself as God's beloved child, never separate from the divine for even one instant, eternally held in arms of infinite compassion. Let me share with you a story that will open your heart to what awaits you on this sacred journey. In a village in ancient India, there lived a master gardener whose garden was renowned throughout the land for its extraordinary beauty. People would travel for days just to witness the miracle of his flowers, which seemed to glow with an inner light that no other gardener could replicate. The roses were more fragrant than any that had ever bloomed, the jasmine more delicate, the lotuses more pristine. Even the simple grass in his garden seemed to shimmer with life force. Visitors from around the world came constantly to learn his secrets. They examined his soil, analyzed his water, studied the position of his plants in relation to the sun and moon. They offered him great sums of money for his fertilizer formula, his planting techniques, his methods of pruning and watering, but the master gardener would only smile mysteriously when pressed for his secrets. One day, a young seeker arrived who was different from the rest. Instead of demanding immediate answers, he simply asked if he could sit quietly in the garden for a while. The master gardener was pleased by this request and invited him to stay as long as he wished. The young seeker came every day for a month, sitting in silence among the flowers, simply absorbing the peace and beauty that surrounded him. Finally, the master gardener approached him and said, "You are the first visitor who has not demanded my secrets. Because of this, I will share with you what I have never told another soul." He led the young seeker to his house before dawn the next morning. In the pre-dawn darkness, they walked together to the garden, where the master began his daily work. But this was unlike any gardening the young seeker had ever witnessed. The master did not immediately begin planting or watering or pruning. Instead, he sat in perfect stillness among his flowers for a full hour, his eyes closed, his breathing so gentle it barely moved his chest. Then, rising slowly, he began to move through the garden with incredible tenderness, touching each plant with the reverence one might show a sleeping child. Most remarkably, he worked in complete silence. No humming, no muttering to himself, no mental planning or analyzing. He simply moved from plant to plant, feeling each one's needs with his hands, his heart, his entire being. He would pause before a rose bush and stand motionless for long minutes, as if listening to something the young seeker could not hear. Then he would water it, or prune it, or simply whisper a blessing so soft it was barely audible. "This is my secret," the master finally explained as the sun began to rise. "Every morning, I commune with each plant in the language that existed before words were spoken, the language of silence, of love, of divine understanding. In silence, I hear what each flower is trying to become. I feel its deepest desire and help it fulfill its divine purpose. I do not impose my will upon my garden. Instead, I listen to the will of God flowing through every leaf, every petal, every root, and I become a servant to that divine intention." The young seeker was amazed. "But how do you learn this language of silence?" he asked. The master smiled and replied, "The same way you learn to speak with words, my child, through practice, patience, and faith that the capacity already exists within you. Your soul already knows this language perfectly. It is your mind that has forgotten how to listen. Your soul, dear friend, is that garden, and these 20 practices I will teach you are your tools of silent communion." Just as the master gardener awakened before dawn to tend his flowers in sacred silence, you too must learn to tend the garden of your consciousness when the world sleeps and your soul can speak freely, uninterrupted by the demands and distractions of daily life. This story reminds me powerfully of my own awakening as a young seeker in India. Every morning at 4 o'clock, I would rise from my simple bed in the ashram and make my way through the sleeping streets to the banks of the sacred Ganges River. In the pre-dawn darkness, with only the stars as witnesses, I would sit on the stone steps leading down to the holy water and practice what I am about to teach you today. For months, I disciplined myself in these silent practices, sometimes feeling nothing but the restlessness of my mind, sometimes drowning in doubt about whether God even existed or cared about one small seeker's desperate prayers. There were mornings when every fiber of my being rebelled against sitting still, when my thoughts raced like wild horses refusing to be tamed. There were days when I felt like I was talking to an empty sky, pouring out my heart to a universe that seemed deaf to my longing. But my guru had taught me that consistency matters more than perfection, that showing up faithfully matters more than feeling inspired. So I continued my daily appointment with the divine, even when, especially when, I felt like giving up. I learned that spiritual practice is not about feeling good or having profound experiences every day. It is about training the soul to remember its true nature, regardless of the mind's temporary moods and reactions. Then one morning, after months of faithful silence, something extraordinary happened that changed the entire course of my life forever. As I sat by that holy river in the hushed moments before dawn, something shifted in my consciousness like a door opening that had been locked for lifetimes. The water before me began to speak to me, not with words that physical ears could hear, but with wisdom that flowed directly into my heart like liquid light, like pure knowing that bypassed the mind entirely. The river taught me that it had been flowing for thousands of years, carrying the prayers of millions of pilgrims, witnessing the rise and fall of empires, yet never struggling against its banks, never forcing its way forward. It flowed because it surrendered completely to the divine law that pulls all things back to the ocean of God. It taught me that resistance creates suffering, but surrender creates miracles. In that moment of perfect silence, I realized with crystalline clarity that the divine had been calling me all along through every sunrise I had ever witnessed, every gentle breeze that had ever caressed my face, every beat of my heart since the day I was born. The voice of the beloved had been whispering continuously, You are mine, and I am yours. You have never been separate from me, not for one instant. This feeling of separation is just a dream from which you are now awakening. I understood then that all my years of searching had not been about finding God, but about removing the obstacles that prevented me from recognizing the God who had never left my side. This is the true power of silence, my friend. It does not create the divine within you. That divine presence is your very essence, closer than your breath, more intimate than your heartbeat. Silence simply removes the static that prevents you from hearing what was always there, like clearing mud from a spring so the pure water can flow freely once again. Let me tell you about Dr. Sarah Williams, a brilliant physician who came to me 3 years ago carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. She was in her early 40s, at the top of her profession, respected by colleagues and beloved by patients. Yet when she sat in my simple room and removed the mask of competence she wore for the world, I saw before me a soul dying of spiritual starvation. Dark circles ringed her eyes from years of sleepless nights in hospital corridors. Her hands, so skilled at healing others, trembled slightly from the chronic stress of holding life and death decisions every day. Though she saved lives daily, she felt empty inside, like a well that had run completely dry. The joy that had once made her dream of becoming a doctor had been buried under an avalanche of paperwork, insurance battles, and the relentless pressure to see more patients in less time. Master, she said to me with tears streaming down her face, I became a doctor because I wanted to heal people, to ease suffering, to be an instrument of God's love in the world. But I feel like I'm dying inside. My marriage is falling apart because I have no energy left for my husband. My children barely know me because I'm always at the hospital. My patients get the best of my medical knowledge, but I feel like a robot going through the motions. What good am I to anyone if I have no life left in me to give? I listened to her pain with the same attention I might give to a sacred text, knowing that her suffering was not unique but shared by millions of people in our modern world who have forgotten how to nourish their souls. I could see that she was a good woman, a sincere seeker who had simply lost her way in the complexity of contemporary life. Her heart was still pure, but it had been buried under layers of exhaustion, worry, and the false belief that she had to carry all of life's burdens alone. I taught her to begin each day with just 5 of these silent practices I will share with you. Nothing complicated, nothing that required the hours of time she didn't have. Simply 5 minutes of sacred silence before her day began, sitting quietly in her car in the hospital parking lot before entering the building, just breathing and remembering that she was more than her job title, more than her responsibilities, more than the role she played in the world. I taught her to practice breath awareness while walking between patient rooms, silently blessing each person she encountered, offering her worries to the divine during quiet moments throughout her day. Before sleep, she learned to spend 5 minutes in wordless gratitude, not thinking grateful thoughts, but letting gratitude fill her heart like warm honey, appreciating the gift of another day in service to God through service to others. But Master, she protested, how can such simple practices possibly change anything? I need major solutions for major problems. I smiled and replied, my dear daughter, it is not the size of the practice that matters, but the sincerity of the heart that performs it. A single candle can light up an entire dark room. These small moments of silence are candles that will gradually illuminate your entire life. Within 3 weeks, something remarkable began to happen that surprised even me with its rapidity. Doctor, Sarah's patients started commenting on a change they could see but couldn't quite name. Doctor, they would say, there's something different about you lately. You seem so calm and peaceful. Just being in your presence makes me feel better. Her colleagues noticed it too. Sarah, they said, what's your secret? You look 10 years younger, and somehow your presence in this chaotic hospital has changed the entire atmosphere of our unit. Her husband called me after 2 months to thank me. I don't know what you taught my wife, he said, but she's like a different person. She comes home exhausted from work, but there's a light in her eyes that I hadn't seen in years. She actually has energy for our conversations, patience with our children, and she seems to have found some source of peace that sustains her through even the most difficult days. 6 months later, Doctor, Sarah told me something I will never forget. Master, I understand now what you meant when you said silence is not emptiness but fullness. In those quiet moments each morning and evening, I fill up with something I can't name but can't live without anymore. It's like discovering that I've been trying to run on empty when there was a gas station inside my heart all along. And somehow, that fullness flows through me to everyone I touch throughout the day. A year after beginning her practice, Dr. Sarah was promoted to head of her department. Her marriage had deepened into the spiritual partnership she had always dreamed of, and she had begun teaching meditation to other healthcare workers. Most importantly, she had rediscovered the sacred calling that had originally drawn her to medicine. This is the power of a soul that has learned to commune with divine silence. It transforms not only the practitioner but everyone whose life they touch. But stories alone cannot transform you, my dear friend. Now I must share with you the deeper principles that make these practices so powerfully transformative, so that you understand not just what to do, but why these simple acts of silence can literally cause your soul to glow with divine radiance. The first principle you must understand is that silence is God's native language. We human beings think in words, speak in sentences, and try to capture the infinite in the tiny boxes of our vocabulary. But God communicates through a language that existed before the first word was ever spoken. The language of direct knowing, of love that needs no explanation, of peace that passes all understanding, of wisdom that flows like water from the source of all knowledge. When you sit in true silence, not just the absence of sound, but the presence of divine awareness, you begin to remember this ancient language that your soul has always known but your mind has forgotten. It's like tuning into a radio station that broadcasts constantly with the most beautiful music ever composed, but that we can only hear when we turn down all the other noise competing for our attention. I want you to understand clearly the difference between empty, quiet, and pregnant silence, because this distinction will determine whether your practice becomes transformative or merely restful. Empty quiet is what happens when you simply stop talking or turn off the television or find yourself alone in a soundproof room. It's the absence of noise, but it's not necessarily sacred. It might be peaceful, but it doesn't necessarily connect you to the divine source within you. Pregnant silence, on the other hand, is full of divine potential, vibrating with creative possibility. It's like the moment just before dawn when the whole world holds its breath, waiting for the sun to be born from the womb of night. It's the silence in a mother's belly where a new life grows in perfect trust, nourished by forces beyond comprehension. It's the pause between heartbeats where eternity lives, the space between thoughts where infinity dwells, the stillness between breaths where the soul touches its source. When you learn to rest in this pregnant silence through the practices I will teach you, you create space for divine communication to occur. God doesn't need to shout to get your attention. The divine whispers constantly, but we must become quiet enough to hear. In my years of communing with the divine in silence, I have experienced what the ancient scriptures call the soundless sound, the original vibration of creation itself humming with love and intelligence, the cosmic AUM that reverberates through every atom of existence. This brings me to the second fundamental principle, your soul's natural radiance. My beloved friend, you must understand with every cell of your being that you are not trying to create light within yourself through these practices. The light is already there, has always been there, and will always be there regardless of what you do or don't do. You are a spark of the divine fire, temporarily clothed in flesh but eternally made of the same substance as the stars that light the night sky. The ancient scriptures tell us that we are made in the image of God, but most people think this means we look like God physically. The deeper truth is that we share God's essential nature. We are consciousness, we are love, we are light itself playing in the theater of matter and time. The problem is not that your light has gone out or that you lack something that others possess. The problem is that this radiant essence has been covered by layers upon layers of noise, worry, distraction, and the false belief that you are separate from your source. It's like a magnificent lamp that burns with the brightest light imaginable, but someone has wrapped it in thick blankets until only the faintest glow can be seen. These 20 silent practices I will teach you are not about creating new light. They are about removing the blankets, one by one, with infinite patience and gentleness, until your natural radiance shines forth unobstructed for all the world to see. This is why the great saints throughout history, Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, Moses, Saint Francis, Ramakrishna, appear to literally glow with inner light in the paintings and sculptures that depict them. The artists weren't using their imagination or adding halos for decorative effect. They were trying to capture something real that they perceived with their inner vision, the natural luminosity of souls that have remembered their divine nature. These saints haven't gained something the rest of us lack. They haven't been specially chosen by God to receive gifts denied to others. They have simply practiced removing the veils that hide the truth of what we all are. Children of infinite light, temporarily playing in the theater of matter, pretending to be separate from our source while never actually being separate for even one instant. When you consistently practice communing with silence, something beautiful begins to happen in your consciousness that affects not only your inner experience, but your entire outer life as well. Your energy starts to vibrate at a higher frequency, one that naturally attracts harmony, love, peace, and divine opportunities. This is the third principle I must share with you: sacred magnetism. You've probably noticed in your life that some people just seem to draw good things to them naturally, effortlessly. Opportunities find them rather than them having to chase opportunities. Loving people are attracted to them like iron filings to a magnet. Resources appear just when they need them most. They seem to walk through life with an invisible shield that protects them from the worst of human negativity and conflict. Money flows to them, meaningful work finds them, harmonious relationships bless their lives. This isn't luck, my friend, and it's not because they were born under a lucky star or possess some secret that others don't. It's the law of attraction operating at the soul level, far beyond the superficial understanding that has become popular in recent years. When you align your consciousness with the peace and love that flows through divine silence, you become like a magnet for all the good that the universe wants to give you. But understand, this is very different from ego magnetism, where we try to use spiritual techniques to attract things that satisfy our personal desires and ambitions. That approach often works temporarily, but it ultimately leads to disappointment because it's based on the false belief that external things can provide lasting fulfillment. Soul magnetism, on the other hand, draws to us exactly what we need for our highest spiritual growth and our ability to serve others with greater love. This happens because silence teaches us to surrender our small will to God's infinite wisdom. Instead of demanding that life conform to our limited understanding of what we think we need, we learn to trust that the divine knows what will bring us true happiness in spiritual evolution. We stop trying to force outcomes and instead become vessels through which divine will can express itself. Paradoxically, when we stop grasping desperately for what we think we need, life begins to shower us with blessings we never could have imagined or planned. When we release our tight control over how things should unfold, we discover that God's plan for us is infinitely more beautiful than anything our small minds could have conceived. Now, my dear friend, let me teach you the 20 sacred practices that will awaken this divine radiance within you and transform your life from the inside out. I have organized them into 3 groups, each serving a different aspect of your spiritual awakening, each building upon the others like steps on a ladder leading to divine union. The first 7 practices are what I call silent communion. These are the foundation practices that teach your soul to recognize and rest in the presence of God within you. They are designed to establish a consistent connection with the divine source, creating channels through which divine love and wisdom can flow into your daily experience. Practice number 1. Dawn silence sitting. This is perhaps the most important practice I will teach you, because it sets the spiritual tone for your entire day. Every morning before the sun rises and before you do anything else, before checking your phone, before reading the news, before your mind becomes occupied with the day's responsibilities, sit quietly for 5 to 20 minutes in a place where you will not be disturbed. You don't need a special cushion or shrine or room designated for meditation, though these things can be helpful if you have them. You can sit on the edge of your bed, in your car, in the driveway, on your porch, anywhere that feels peaceful to you. The important thing is consistency, not perfection. Choose a time and place that you can maintain every single day, regardless of your schedule or how you feel. Don't try to meditate in the formal sense or control your thoughts or achieve any particular state of consciousness. Simply sit and be present with whatever arises in your awareness. Let this be your daily appointment with the divine, sacred time when you remember who you really are. Before the world tells you who you should be, when you reconnect with your essence before you put on the mask of personality that you wear in your daily interactions. If thoughts arise, don't fight them. If emotions surface, don't suppress them. If your body feels restless, don't force it to be still. Simply witness whatever is happening with the same gentle attention you might give to watching clouds pass across an open sky. You are not trying to achieve anything during this time. You are simply being present to the miracle of existence itself. Practice number 2. Breath awareness without counting or controlling. Several times throughout your day, perhaps once each hour, simply become aware that you are breathing. Don't try to breathe deeply or slowly or in any particular pattern. Don't count your breaths or time them or analyze them. Just notice the miracle that breath is happening through you without any effort or intention on your part. This simple awareness connects you to the life force that flows through all creation. The same power that makes the flowers bloom and the planets orbit the sun is breathing you right now. The Sanskrit word for breath, prana, means life force or divine energy. When you become conscious of your breathing, you are touching the very current of life that sustains the universe. You can practice this while walking, while waiting in line, while listening to someone speak, while doing almost any activity that doesn't require your complete mental focus. It's a way of remembering throughout the day that you are not separate from the vast web of life that surrounds and supports you always. Practice number 3, heart center meditation with divine love. Several times each day, place your hand gently on your heart and imagine breathing in and out through this sacred center of your being. With each breath, let yourself feel surrounded by and filled with unconditional love. Don't try to manufacture this feeling with your mind. Simply, open your heart and allow love to fill the space you create. This practice awakens what the yogis call the heart chakra, the energy center where the soul's light shines brightest. When you consistently focus loving attention on your heart center, you begin to experience yourself as a being made of love rather than a being seeking love from external sources. You realize that love is not something you need to earn or find or create. It is your very nature, always available, always flowing, always seeking expression through you. Practice number 4, walking meditation in nature. At least once each day, if possible, walk slowly in a natural setting, even if it's just around one tree in your yard or through a small park in your neighborhood. If you live in a city with no access to nature, you can practice this by walking slowly anywhere outdoors, focusing your attention on the sky above you and remembering your connection to the natural world. Walk without destination, without purpose other than to connect with the earth that supports you and the sky that shelters you. Let each step be a prayer of gratitude. Feel your feet making contact with the ground and remember that the same earth that holds you up holds up the mountains and the oceans. Look at the sky and remember that the same space that surrounds you extends to embrace every star in the universe. This practice helps you remember that you are not separate from nature, but are nature expressing itself in human form. The same intelligence that grows the trees and moves the clouds flows through your body and mind. When you walk consciously in nature, you remember your place in the cosmic family and feel held by forces much larger and more loving than anything your human mind can comprehend. Practice number 5, silent gratitude practice. Before you eat any meal, no matter how simple or hurried, pause for at least 30 seconds in wordless appreciation for the food before you. Don't think specific grateful thoughts or recite lists of things you're thankful for. Instead, let gratitude fill your heart like warm honey, sweet and golden and nourishing. Feel appreciation not just for the food itself, but for all the hands that brought it to you, the farmers who planted the seeds, the earth that nourished the crops, the rain that watered them, the sun that ripened them, the workers who harvested them, the drivers who transported them, the people who prepared and served them. Let yourself feel connected to this vast network of service and support that makes your life possible. This practice transforms eating from a mere physical necessity into a communion with the divine source that sustains all life. When you eat with conscious gratitude, your food becomes blessed and blesses you in return, nourishing not just your body but your soul as well. Practice number 6, listening to the silence between thoughts. Throughout your day, begin to notice the small gaps between your thoughts, those tiny moments when your mind is still, when one thought has ended and the next has not yet begun. Instead of immediately rushing to fill these gaps with more thinking, learn to rest in them like a traveler resting in a shady grove on a hot day. These moments of mental stillness are precious gifts, doorways to the infinite silence that underlies all thought and activity. At first, you may only notice these gaps for a split second before your mind starts chattering again. That's perfectly normal and natural. With practice, you'll begin to recognize these moments more frequently and rest in them more deeply. This is where you touch eternity in the midst of time, where you contact the part of yourself that never changes regardless of what's happening in your life. The more you learn to rest in these gaps, the more you'll discover that your true nature is not the endless stream of thoughts and feelings that flow through your consciousness, but the awareness in which they appear and disappear. Practice number 7, evening review and wordless reflection. Before sleep each night, sit quietly for 5 to 10 minutes and let the day's events pass through your awareness without judgment, analysis, or trying to solve problems or plan for tomorrow. Simply witness what happened with the same peaceful presence you might bring to watching a movie about someone else's life. Don't try to understand why things happened as they did or figure out what you should have done differently. Don't praise yourself for your successes or criticize yourself for your mistakes. Just observe the flow of events with compassionate detachment, like a loving grandparent watching a child play. This practice helps you release the day completely so you can sleep peacefully and wake refreshed. It also develops the witness consciousness that is essential for spiritual growth. The ability to observe your life from the perspective of your eternal soul rather than being completely identified with your temporary personality. The next 7 practices are silent service. These teach you to serve others and the world as expressions of divine love, without need for recognition, thanks, or any reward other than the joy of giving. These practices transform your daily activities into opportunities for spiritual growth and help you discover that serving others is actually the fastest way to realize your own divine nature. Practice number 8. Anonymous acts of kindness. Each day, do something kind for another person without them knowing it was you. Pay for the coffee of the person behind you in line and leave before they find out. Leave flowers on a neighbor's doorstep with no note. Secretly place money in the tip jar when no one is looking. Pick up litter in a park when no one can see you doing it. Send an anonymous gift to someone who is struggling financially. Let your service be a secret offering to God through God's children. This practice purifies your motivation for service, ensuring that you're not helping others to look good or feel important or receive gratitude. When you serve anonymously, you discover the pure joy of giving without any thought of return, which is the closest thing to divine love that human beings can experience. Practice number 9. Silent blessing of everyone you meet. As you go through your day, silently bless each person you encounter, even those who annoy you, frustrate you, or seem to be creating problems in your life. You don't need to think specific blessing thoughts or use particular words. Simply send them love from your heart to theirs, like a radio station broadcasting love on a frequency that souls can receive even when minds are busy with other things. This practice is incredibly powerful because it transforms your relationship with every human being from potential conflict to opportunity for love. When you silently bless difficult people, something miraculous happens. They often respond by becoming less difficult, as if they unconsciously sense the love you're sending them, and their own hearts begin to soften in response. Practice number 10. Wordless prayer for world peace. Each day, spend at least 5 minutes holding the whole world in your heart with love. Don't pray with words or ask for specific outcomes, or try to solve the world's problems with your mind. Simply radiate peace and compassion to all beings everywhere, like a candle sending its light into the darkness without worrying about how far that light will travel. Imagine your love as light spreading from your heart to embrace your family, your community, your country, and finally the entire planet with all its suffering and struggling creatures. This practice connects you to your role as a spiritual servant in the cosmic plan and helps you realize that your individual peace contributes to the peace of the whole world. Practice number 11. Silent forgiveness work. When someone hurts your feelings, betrays your trust, or makes you angry, don't immediately react with words or try to forgive them with your mind by thinking forgiving thoughts. Instead, sit quietly and let your heart soften toward them without forcing anything. True forgiveness happens in silence, when we remember that we are all children learning to love, all souls struggling to remember our divine nature. This doesn't mean becoming a doormat or allowing people to abuse you. Sometimes forgiveness requires setting firm boundaries or removing yourself from harmful situations. But the inner work of releasing resentment and opening your heart to compassion happens most effectively in the silence of prayer and meditation. Practice number 12. Caring for plants or animals without speaking. Spend time each day tending to some living being other than yourself. Water a plant, feed birds, pet a cat, tend a garden, without talking or even thinking in words. Let your love flow through your actions rather than your words. This connects you to the universal life force that animates all creation and helps you remember that the same divine spark that lives in you lives in every living thing. When you care for other creatures in silence, you often discover that they respond to your loving intention even more than to your actions. Plants seem to thrive under the care of people who tend them with silent love, and animals often become calm and trusting in the presence of someone who radiates peaceful energy. Practice number 13. Silent presence with those who suffer. When someone you know is in pain, whether physical, emotional, or spiritual, Resist the urge to offer advice or try to fix their problem with words. Instead, simply sit with them in loving silence, letting your peaceful presence be your gift to them. Often, silent love heals what words cannot touch. This is one of the most challenging practices for most people, because we feel so helpless when we can't solve someone else's problems. But there is tremendous healing power in simply being fully present with another person's pain without trying to change it or make it go away. Your willingness to witness their suffering with compassion creates a sacred space where their own healing can unfold naturally. Practice number 14. Sacred work done as worship. Whatever work you do, whether washing dishes, answering emails, building houses, teaching children, or running a corporation, offer it to God in silence. Let each task become a form of prayer, performed with the same reverence you would bring to the most sacred ritual. Remember that there is no work too humble to be offered to the divine, and no work so important that it cannot be done as an act of worship. When you work with this consciousness, several miraculous things happen. First, even the most mundane tasks become sources of spiritual fulfillment. Second, your work improves dramatically because you're no longer working just for money or recognition, but as an offering to the highest. Third, you discover that work can be a path to God rather than something that separates you from your spiritual life. The final 6 practices are silent surrender. These teach you to let go of the ego's need to control life and trust completely in divine wisdom. These are perhaps the most advanced practices, not because they're complicated, but because they require the greatest leap of faith and trust in God's infinite love and wisdom. Practice number 15. Offering worries to the divine without words. When anxiety, fear, or worry arises in your mind and heart, don't try to think your way out of it or solve the problem with mental effort. Instead, imagine taking your worry like a heavy stone and placing it in God's hands, then stepping back and letting divine wisdom handle what you cannot control or understand. You may need to do this practice many times throughout the day, because the mind has a habit of picking up worries again like a child picking up toys it has been asked to put away. Each time you notice worry returning, simply offer it to God again with the same patience and trust. This practice teaches you that you are not responsible for solving every problem or controlling every outcome. Your job is to do your best and leave the results in divine hands. Practice number 16. Silent acceptance of what cannot be changed. When life presents you with circumstances beyond your control, illness, loss, other people's choices, natural disasters, economic upheaval, practice resting in peaceful acceptance without mental commentary or resistance. This doesn't mean being passive or failing to take appropriate action. It means acting from wisdom and love rather than from fear and struggle. True acceptance is not resignation or giving up. It's recognizing that fighting against reality causes additional suffering beyond what the situation itself requires. When you can accept what is happening without adding the extra layer of mental resistance, you often discover that solutions and opportunities appear that were invisible as long as you were fighting the situation. Practice number 17. Wordless devotion through sacred music or chanting. Let yourself be moved by beautiful music or sacred sounds without trying to understand or analyze them intellectually. Whether it's Gregorian chanting, Indian ragas, gospel music, or simply the sound of wind through trees, let the vibrations wash through you and awaken the natural devotion that flows between your soul and God. Music is one of the most direct paths to divine communion because it bypasses the analytical mind and speaks directly to the heart. When you listen to sacred music in a state of receptive silence, you often experience states of consciousness that would take years to achieve through mental meditation alone. Practice number 18. Silent communion with spiritual texts. When reading sacred writings, whether from your own religious tradition or from other wisdom traditions, pause frequently to absorb their meaning in silence rather than immediately moving on to the next sentence. Let the wisdom sink into your heart like rain soaking into thirsty earth. Don't read spiritual texts like you would read a newspaper or novel, trying to consume information as quickly as possible. Instead, read slowly, contemplatively, letting each insight transform your understanding before moving to the next. Often, a single sentence absorbed in silence can provide enough spiritual nourishment to sustain you for days. Practice number 19. Surrendering the fruits of action in silence. After completing any task, whether it's a major project at work or something as simple as preparing a meal, take a moment to silently offer the results to God. Whether you succeeded or failed by worldly standards, Let go of attachment to the outcome and trust that all efforts made with love serve the divine plan in ways you may never understand. This practice frees you from the exhausting burden of trying to control how your actions will be received or what results they will produce. When you can work with full effort but without attachment to results, you discover a peace and freedom that makes every activity a source of joy rather than stress. Practice number 20. Sleeping as conscious surrender to divine will. As you prepare for sleep each night, consciously offer your rest to God. Let yourself fall asleep knowing that even in unconsciousness, you are held in divine love and that your dreams can be guided by infinite wisdom. This practice transforms sleep from mere physical rest into spiritual renewal. Many people are afraid of sleep because it represents a loss of control, a temporary death of the conscious ego. But when you approach sleep as surrender to the divine, you often find that you wake more refreshed and that solutions to problems appear in your dreams or in the quiet moments just after waking. Now that you understand all 20 practices, let me show you exactly how to weave them into your daily life starting tomorrow morning. Because understanding them intellectually is only the beginning, the transformation comes through consistent, loving practice. The secret is not to try to do all 20 at once, which would overwhelm anyone and lead to discouragement. Instead, create what I call a sacred daily rhythm that honors both your spiritual aspirations and your practical limitations. For your morning foundation, choose 3 to 5 practices that speak most strongly to your heart right now. Perhaps you begin each day with dawn silence sitting for 10 minutes, followed by breath awareness as you prepare for your day, and heart center meditation before you leave your home. This foundation should take no more than 15 to 20 minutes total. And remember, we are not trying to become perfect meditators overnight. We are simply creating space for the divine to remind us who we truly are. The beauty of starting your day with silent practices is that they set a peaceful tone that influences everything that follows. When you begin in communion with the divine source within you, you find that you respond to challenges from a place of centered wisdom rather than reactive emotion. Problems that might normally upset you seem smaller and more manageable. People who might usually irritate you seem less threatening and more human. Throughout your day, create what I call midday reset moments. These are tiny pauses of 2 to 3 minutes where you practice 1 or 2 of the silent disciplines. Maybe you silently bless people while waiting in line at the store, transforming a potentially frustrating delay into an opportunity for spiritual service. Maybe you listen to the silence between thoughts while walking from one meeting to another, using those transition moments to reconnect with your divine center. Maybe you practice breath awareness while stuck in traffic, turning road rage into road meditation. Maybe you offer your worries to God while sitting at your desk, transforming workplace stress into opportunities for surrender and trust. These small moments of remembrance keep your soul connected to its divine source even in the busiest, most chaotic day. For evening integration, spend 5 to 10 minutes practicing reflection and surrender before sleep. Perhaps you do your wordless evening review, letting the day's experiences pass through your consciousness without judgment. Perhaps you practice silent gratitude for the lessons the day has taught you. Perhaps you offer any remaining worries to divine wisdom and practice sleeping as conscious surrender to God's will. This completes the circle of your day, ensuring that you go to sleep in a state of peace rather than carrying the day's tensions into your rest. When you sleep peacefully, you wake refreshed and ready to begin another day of spiritual practice and service. Start with just 1 practice tomorrow morning. Don't try to be heroic or prove your spiritual dedication by taking on more than you can realistically maintain. Choose the practice that feels most natural and appealing to you right now. Your soul knows its own needs and will guide you if you listen with an open heart. Practice this one discipline faithfully for 1 full week before adding a second practice. Then practice both for another week before considering a third. This gradual approach ensures that each practice becomes a natural part of your daily rhythm, rather than another burden you've added to an already busy life. You will face obstacles in establishing this practice, and I want you to be prepared for them so you don't become discouraged when they arise. The first and most common obstacle is mental resistance. When your mind rebels against silence and fills with extra chatter, the moment you try to be still, don't fight the thoughts or judge yourself for having them. Remember that the mind has been conditioned for years to be constantly active, constantly problem-solving, constantly entertaining itself with stories and plans and memories. When you suddenly ask it to be quiet, it may react like a child who has been told to sit still, with increased activity and rebellion. This is completely normal and temporary. Simply notice the thoughts with gentle amusement, like watching clouds pass across the sky or birds flying overhead. You are not trying to stop thinking. You are learning to stop being controlled by every thought that arises. The goal is not to empty your mind, but to change your relationship with your mental activity. The second common obstacle is physical restlessness. When your body feels uncomfortable during silent practices, remember that this restlessness is simply energy-seeking expression. Instead of immediately changing your position or giving up the practice, breathe into the feeling of discomfort without trying to change it, and you'll often find that it naturally settles like mud settling in still water. If you truly need to adjust your posture for health reasons, do so mindfully and gently, then return to stillness. But try to distinguish between genuine physical needs and the body's habitual resistance to being still. In our culture of constant movement and stimulation, learning to be comfortably still is itself a valuable spiritual discipline. The third obstacle is the belief that you cannot find silence if you live in a noisy environment. If your home is chaotic, if you live in a busy city, if you have small children who need constant attention, you might think these practices are impossible for you. But external silence, while helpful, is not essential for these practices. The silence we seek exists within you always, deeper than any surface noise. You can practice these disciplines even in the heart of a busy city by turning your attention inward to the stillness that exists at your core. Some of the greatest saints in history lived in the midst of worldly activity, yet maintained perfect inner peace because they had learned to find the eye of the hurricane within themselves. You can practice breath awareness on a crowded subway. You can silently bless people in a noisy restaurant. You can offer your worries to God while children are playing loudly in the next room. The key is understanding that these practices are about inner orientation, not outer circumstances. Most importantly, maintain consistency without force. Be gentle with yourself, as loving and patient as you would be with a small child learning to walk. Some days your practice will feel inspired and profound, filled with peace and divine presence. Other days it may feel ordinary, difficult, or even pointless. Both experiences are valuable parts of your spiritual journey. What matters is showing up faithfully, day after day, trusting that the divine meets us in our sincere effort regardless of how we feel about our practice on any given day. Consistency creates a container within which transformation can occur naturally, like water gradually wearing smooth a rough stone. Don't measure your progress by dramatic spiritual experiences or sudden insights. Measure it by the gradual changes in how you respond to life's challenges, how you treat other people, how much peace you feel in your daily experience. The most profound spiritual growth often happens so gradually that you don't notice it until you look back and realize how much you've changed. How will you know when your soul is beginning to glow with divine radiance? The signs are unmistakable once you know what to look for, though they often appear gradually like the gentle arrival of dawn rather than like lightning illuminating the sky. First, you will notice an inner peace that others begin to comment on without being able to explain what they're observing. Friends and family will say things like, "There's something different about you lately," or "You seem so calm and centered," or "Just being around you makes me feel more peaceful." This inner peace becomes like a portable sanctuary that you carry with you everywhere, protecting you from the emotional storms that used to knock you off balance for days or weeks. This peace is not the absence of challenges or difficulties. Life will still present you with problems to solve and losses to grieve, but you'll find that you can remain centered and clear-minded even in the midst of chaos, like a deep lake that remains calm beneath the surface even when storms create waves on the surface. Second, you will begin receiving intuitive insights that guide you toward right action in every situation. You'll find yourself knowing instinctively just what to say to comfort someone who is hurting, or feeling clear inner guidance about which job to take, or which relationship to pursue, or how to handle a difficult family situation. This intuitive wisdom doesn't come through your logical mind. It arises from a deeper source of knowing that bypasses mental analysis entirely. You'll simply find yourself acting from wisdom you didn't know you possessed, saying things you didn't plan to say, making decisions that turn out perfectly, even though you couldn't have reasoned your way to them. Third, you will notice synchronicities and divine opportunities appearing in your life with increasing frequency. The right people will show up at exactly the right times. Doors will open that seemed permanently closed. Resources will appear just when you need them most. Solutions to long-standing problems will present themselves in unexpected ways. This is not coincidence or wishful thinking. It is the natural result of aligning your consciousness with the divine flow of life. When you stop fighting the current and learn to swim with the river of existence, you discover that the universe is constantly conspiring to support your highest good and spiritual growth. Fourth, you will develop a natural magnetism that draws goodness to you without any effort on your part. People will seek you out for advice and comfort, sensing something in your presence that they need even if they can't articulate what it island. Career opportunities will find you rather than you having to chase after them desperately. Love in all its forms, friendship, romance, family harmony, will flow toward you like water flowing naturally downhill. This magnetism is not based on anything you do or say. It's the natural radiance of a soul that has remembered its divine nature and learned to express that nature through peaceful presence and loving service to others. Finally, and perhaps most beautifully, you will discover effortless compassion flowing through you even toward people who used to trigger anger or frustration in you. Where once you might have felt irritated by difficult people, you will find yourself naturally seeing through their behavior to the pain or fear that drives it, and responding with kindness rather than reaction. This compassion won't feel forced or artificial. It will be as natural as breathing, because you will recognize the same divine spark in others that you have awakened in yourself. You'll understand that we are all souls struggling to remember our true nature, all children learning to love, all sparks of the same divine fire temporarily playing different roles in the cosmic drama. When someone is rude or inconsiderate, instead of taking it personally, you'll find yourself thinking, this person is suffering and doesn't know how to express their pain in a healthy way. How can I respond with love while still maintaining appropriate boundaries? This shift in perspective transforms every human interaction from potential conflict into opportunity for spiritual growth and service. My beloved friend, as we near the end of our time together today, I want you to remember this eternal truth that has sustained me through decades of teaching and will sustain you through whatever challenges and joys await you on your spiritual journey. You are not a human being having a spiritual experience, but a spiritual being temporarily clothed in humanity for the purpose of learning to love more fully and serve more selflessly. These 20 silent practices are not disciplines to add to your already busy life like items on a to-do list. They are pathways home to your true nature, gentle reminders of who you have always been beneath the layers of conditioning and forgetting that have accumulated over years of living in a world that has forgotten its divine source. When you commune regularly with the silence of God within you, your soul begins to remember its divine inheritance and naturally radiates that remembrance as visible light, magnetic peace, and irresistible love. You don't have to try to glow, you simply have to remove the obstacles that hide the light you have always been. You don't have to create love, you simply have to clear away the barriers that prevent love's natural expression through you. The path is simple in its essence, but it requires the dedication of a sincere heart and the patience of a gardener who plants seeds in faith, knowing that with proper care, the harvest will come in divine timing. The rewards are beyond anything your human mind can imagine. Peace that surpasses understanding, love that knows no bounds, wisdom that flows like water from an inexhaustible spring, joy that no external circumstance can diminish. But these rewards can only be received by a heart that has learned to be still, by a soul that has remembered how to listen to the voice of the beloved speaking in the language of silence. Start tomorrow morning with one simple practice. Trust your soul's guidance about which one calls to you most strongly. And remember, every moment of sincere silence is a prayer, every breath of conscious awareness is a gift to your soul, and every act of surrendered service is a step closer to recognizing yourself as the radiant child of God that you have always been. The masters of old who achieved union with the divine were not superhuman beings with special powers. They were ordinary souls like you and me who simply refused to accept the world's definition of what was possible. They practiced these same timeless disciplines with the faith of children and the persistence of lovers, knowing that God responds to sincerity more than to perfection, to consistency more than to intensity, to love more than to technique. You have that same potential within you right now. The same divine spark that illuminated Jesus and Buddha and Krishna pulses in your heart at this very moment. The same infinite love that created the stars and sustains the universe flows through your breath as you listen to these words. The same wisdom that guides the migration of birds and the blooming of flowers is available to guide your every decision if you learn to listen in the sacred silence of your soul. Do not let another day pass in spiritual sleep when awakening is so close at hand. Do not postpone your homecoming to God when the door to that home exists in the silence of your own heart. Do not wait for some future moment when you will be more ready, more worthy, more prepared. The divine calls to you now, in this moment, with the same love that has been calling since before time began. Repeat with me now these words, and carry this truth in your heart like a flame that can never be extinguished. I am a child of the divine light, forever one with the source of all love and wisdom. In silence, I remember my true nature as pure consciousness, eternal peace, and unlimited love. My soul glows with the radiance of God, blessing all who come near me with the light that I am. I am peace itself. I am love itself. I am light eternal, temporarily wearing the costume of humanity, but never forgetting my divine identity. Let this affirmation become more than words. Let it become the foundation of your new life, the truth that guides your every breath, the reality you embody through these sacred practices until you no longer need to remember that you are divine because you can never again forget it. If these words have stirred your soul's memory of its divine nature, if they have awakened in you the longing for God that is the most beautiful thing a human heart can feel, I invite you to subscribe to this channel for more timeless wisdom that can transform your life from the inside out. Click the like button if this teaching has resonated with your heart's deepest knowing, if it has reminded you of truths your soul has always known but your mind had temporarily forgotten. And please, I ask this from my heart to yours, share in the comments which of these 20 practices calls to your soul most strongly. Your sharing may be exactly what another seeker needs to hear to take the first step on their own journey home to God. We are all connected in the web of divine love, all helping each other remember who we truly are through our willingness to share our experiences and insights. Perhaps you will share how practicing dawn silent sitting has transformed your morning routine from rushed chaos to peaceful preparation for the day. Perhaps you will tell others how silently blessing difficult people has changed your most challenging relationships. Perhaps you will describe the peace you found through offering your worries to divine wisdom instead of carrying them like stones in your heart. Whatever you share, know that your words of encouragement and experience may be the very thing that gives another soul the courage to begin their own practice, to take their own first step toward the light that we all seek. In this way, your spiritual practice becomes not just personal transformation but service to the awakening of all humanity. Until we meet again in the silence of the heart, where all souls recognize their unity and all seeking comes to rest in the discovery that we have never been separate from what we seek. May divine love surround you like a protective light. May divine wisdom guide your every step. And may divine peace fill your heart so completely that it overflows as blessing to everyone whose life you touch. Remember always that you are not alone on this path. You are surrounded by the love of all the saints and sages who have walked this way before you, supported by the prayers of all sincere seekers who walk beside you now, and blessed by the infinite compassion of the divine who waits patiently for every child to come home. Begin with silence, my beloved friend. End with light. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and your single step begins with a single moment of sacred silence tomorrow morning when you sit quietly and remember who you truly are. Om peace, peace, peace. May all beings everywhere awaken to their divine nature. May all hearts overflow with love. May all souls shine with the light that can never be diminished. And may you, dear friend, discover in the silence of your own heart the treasure that you have been seeking throughout all your lives, the direct, immediate, unshakable knowing that you are eternally one with God. Before I leave you today, let me share one final story that will seal these teachings in your heart forever. There was once a young woman who came to me many years ago, carrying such darkness in her eyes that I could barely see the divine spark hidden beneath layers of pain and despair. She had lost her child in an accident, her marriage had crumbled under the weight of grief, and she felt that God had abandoned her completely. "Master," she whispered through tears, "everyone tells me that God loves me. But if that's true, why has my life become such a nightmare? Why do I feel so empty, so lost, so forgotten by the very divine that others say cares for me?" Her pain was so profound that it filled my simple room like a heavy fog, and I knew that only the most gentle approach could reach her wounded heart. I didn't give her 20 practices that first day. I gave her only one. Every morning, sit in silence for 5 minutes and simply breathe, not trying to pray or meditate or feel anything in particular, just breathing and allowing herself to be held by the mystery of existence itself. "I can't feel God's presence," she protested. "How will this help?" "My dear child," I replied, "you don't need to feel God's presence for God to be present. The sun shines on cloudy days even when you cannot see it. Your job is not to create God's love, but simply to remove the clouds of grief and despair that are temporarily blocking your awareness of what was never absent. She practiced this single discipline faithfully for 3 months, sitting each morning in her kitchen as the sun rose, simply breathing and allowing her broken heart to be held in silence. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, something began to shift. The crushing weight of grief didn't disappear, but she found she could carry it with more grace. The questions about why tragedy had struck didn't get answered, but they became less urgent, less consuming. After 6 months, she returned to me with something I had not seen before, a faint glow around her eyes, like the first hint of dawn on a dark horizon. "Master," she said, "I don't understand what's happening to me. My circumstances haven't changed. My child is still gone, my marriage is still broken, my life is still difficult. But somehow, in those moments of silence each morning, I touch something that sustains me. I can't name it, but I know it's real." I smiled and said, "Now you are ready for the second practice." Gradually, over 2 years, I taught her all 20 disciplines, watching as her inner light grew stronger with each passing month. She began to glow with such radiance that other grieving parents started coming to her for comfort, drawn by something they couldn't identify but desperately needed. 5 years later, she had become one of my most effective teachers, helping hundreds of people navigate their own dark nights of the soul. "How did you do it?" they would ask her. "How did you find God in the midst of such tragedy?" And she would smile with the wisdom of someone who had walked through fire and emerged as light, saying, "I didn't find God. I simply stopped running from the silence where God was waiting for me all along." This is what awaits you, my beloved friend. Not the absence of life's challenges, but the presence of divine love strong enough to transform any challenge into an opportunity for deeper communion with your source. Not the elimination of human pain, but the discovery of a peace so profound that it can hold any pain without being diminished by it. The woman in this story, her name was Margaret, still practices these disciplines every day, 30 years later. She remarried, had another child, built a beautiful life filled with service and love. But she never forgot the lesson that silence taught her in her darkest hour, that we are never, ever alone, no matter how alone we might feel. The divine presence that sustained her through unimaginable loss is the same presence that breathes you right now, loves you right now, waits for you in the silence of your own heart right now. So as you begin this sacred journey tomorrow morning, remember Margaret. Remember that these practices work not because they are magical, but because they connect you to the magic that you are, the miracle of divine consciousness wearing human form, the wonder of infinite love learning to express itself through finite actions, the mystery of eternal light temporarily playing in the theater of time and space. Your soul knows the way home, dear friend. These 20 practices are simply road signs pointing you in the direction your heart has always wanted to go. Trust the process. Trust your soul's wisdom. Trust the divine love that brought these words to your attention at exactly the moment you needed to hear them. Begin tomorrow with whatever practice calls most strongly to your heart. Whether it's 5 minutes of dawn silence, or a moment of breath awareness, or silently blessing one person you encounter during your day, that single act of remembrance will set in motion a transformation that will bless your life and the lives of everyone you touch for years to come. I believe in you. More importantly, God believes in you. Most importantly of all, your own soul believes in you and has been guiding you toward this moment of readiness for countless years. The time for waiting is over. The time for awakening has begun. Until we meet again in the silence where all souls recognize their oneness, until that blessed moment when you no longer need teachers because you have found the divine teacher within your own heart, I wrap you in the light of infinite blessings and send you forth to glow with the radiance that has always been your true nature. Begin with silence, end with light. And remember always, you are so much more magnificent than you have ever imagined. Let these practices help you remember who you truly are. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, perfect peace. There is a time each night when the world holds its breath. The city is silent, the mind is quiet, and the veil between the visible and invisible grows thin as a breath. That time, my child, is the hour of God. The sages of India called it Brahma Muhurta, the time of the spirit. It is not chosen by men, nor enforced by law, but written into the fabric of the cosmos. It begins around 4 a.m., when the vibrations of the earth are pure, undisturbed, unpolluted by human restlessness. This hour is sacred, not because someone declared it so, but because God whispers most clearly when the world sleeps. At 4 a.m., the soul is most receptive. You are neither deeply asleep nor fully alert. You dwell in that mystical borderland where dream and wakefulness kiss. In that space, the subconscious yields to the superconscious. Divine intuition can rise without interference. The ego is quiet. The emotional tides are still. And what remains is the perfect stillness where the Infinite One can speak to you without distortion. That is why the masters, ancient and modern, awoke before the sun, not out of discipline alone, but out of divine intimacy. When you rise at 4 a.m., you are not waking up to chase the world. You are awakening to meet the one who sustains it. You are stepping into the temple of stillness before the noises of the world desecrate the altar. And in that sacred chamber of silence, the breath slows, the thoughts dissolve, and the door of the soul opens inward. Many cry out for miracles, but they do so amidst noise and distraction. Few are willing to become receptive to the miracle. But if you wake during the hour of God, if you sit in stillness, if you listen without demand, you will begin to notice a soft current moving within, a vibration, a light, a presence that was always waiting for you. The miracle is not in what you ask for. The miracle is in the state that receives without grasping. At 4 a.m., your energy is clean, your karmic fog is light, your consciousness unburdened by the concerns that rush in after sunrise. This is the moment where transformation is possible, because it is the moment before you remember who the world tells you to be. It is the moment your soul gets to define the day. Those who commune with God in the early morning shape their destiny not with will, but with alignment. They enter the world already filled. They do not seek light. They radiate it. They do not chase peace. They carry it. And the world, sensing something uncommon, begins to respond. Not as resistance, but as reflection. This is why miracles begin to unfold, not from pleading, but from proximity to the divine. You want to change your life. You want to break through the inertia. You want your days to feel like sacred ground. Begin by claiming the 1 hour the world has forgotten. Begin by rising while others sleep. Begin by saying to the universe, I am ready to be remade. Say this now, even before we continue. I will rise with God. I will sit in silence. I will meet the miracle. Say it again. Whisper it before sleep. Let it become your vow. For when you honor the hour of the soul will begin to honor you with its power. Miracles do not fall from the sky like coins tossed by a hidden hand. They do not erupt randomly in the lives of the passive. They appear in the lives of those who are inwardly aligned with the laws of spirit. The universe is not governed by chaos. It is governed by vibration. And every miracle is not the breaking of law, but the fulfillment of higher laws we have forgotten to obey. You must understand, beloved one, that God does not respond to pleading. God responds to vibrational alignment. Your outer circumstances are not divine neglect. They are divine mirrors, showing you what your inner world is generating. And when you commit to waking at 4 a.m. each day, not once, not twice, but for 21 sacred mornings, you begin to alter that inner world, not just symbolically, but spiritually, karmically, energetically. Why 21 days? Because spiritual reprogramming requires rhythm. In those 21 days, you begin to undo the karmic inertia that has kept you looping through the same fears, the same doubts, the same spiritual forgetfulness. Every time you choose to rise before the world wakes, you are not just waking your body. You are declaring to the universe, I am no longer asleep to who I am. Discipline in the yogic path is not punishment. It is precision. The same way water, when directed, can cut stone, your inner attention, when focused, can pierce through illusion. Every morning at 4 a.m., as you repeat your practice, you are slowly carving a spiritual groove into your consciousness. And after 21 days, that groove becomes a current, and that current becomes a magnet. And that magnet begins to pull toward you not just serenity, but synchronicities, insights, healings, shifts that seem miraculous to the ordinary eye. This is the secret of the saints. They did not cry for God and then fall back to sleep. They rose to meet him again and again until the body became a temple and the soul aflame. You must stop confusing spiritual excitement with spiritual action. Emotion rises and fades, but action builds structure. Every breath taken at 4 a.m. is a brick in the temple of your destiny. Every moment you sit in silence at that hour is a gate you open within yourself. And one day, without warning, the divine enters. You say you want a miracle, then do what few are willing to do. Rise while the world sleeps. Sit while the world runs. Pray while the world performs. Do this not once but daily, for the soul does not awaken in a moment, it awakens in a pattern. And so I say to you, let your faith be proven by your practice. Let your desire become discipline. Let your longing take form as ritual. You are not waiting for a miracle. The miracle is waiting for you. To meet it in stillness, before the sun rises, before the mind reclaims its chaos. Meet it at 4 a.m. And you will begin to see that what you call divine intervention is really divine consistency. There is a secret no one tells the restless soul. You do not need more willpower. You need inner obedience. True transformation does not come from forcing yourself into action. It comes from surrendering to the rhythm of your own soul. And every soul has a sacred rhythm. Every soul already knows how to align with the infinite. It is not that you are incapable. It is that the noise of the ego has trained you to forget. At 4 a.m., you stand at a holy intersection. Your ego is asleep. Your habits have not yet awakened. Your excuses are not yet loud. In that silence, the soul whispers. The divine calls, not with thunder, but with stillness. It says, come, sit, listen, align. But alignment requires obedience, not to dogma, not to the voice of outer authority, but to the inner promptings of the Spirit. Obedience is the soul's willingness to respond to God's rhythm, even when it defies logic or comfort. When the alarm rings at 4 a.m. and the mind says, not today, obedience is the quiet rising anyway. When the body aches for more sleep, obedience bows before the altar of stillness, not as self-denial, but as devotion. For those who follow the divine will with devotion soon find themselves walking in a flow that others call miraculous. But how can you obey what you cannot hear? That is why you must rise in the hour when your ego is least dominant. The earlier you awaken, the thinner the veil between your consciousness and the guidance of the infinite. This is not superstition, it is spiritual science. The more you align your personal rhythm with the cosmic rhythm, the more life itself begins to conspire in your favor. And yet even the desire to obey must be trained. For this, you must begin with small vows. At 4 a.m., say aloud, I obey the will of the soul, not the cries of comfort. I rise not to suffer, but to remember who I am. I follow the rhythm of the infinite, and it shall carry me to miracles. With every morning you honor this obedience, your old self begins to dissolve. The self that needed chaos to feel alive. The self that waited for signs but never made space for them. That self will fade. And what remains is clarity, and with clarity comes joy. Not the joy of emotional highs, but the joy of spiritual trust. You must learn to trust the unseen, to obey without evidence, to follow the prompting without reward, because obedience is not about control, it is about resonance. When you live in resonance with the divine, your life no longer feels like struggle. It feels like surrender into a current that carries you exactly where you were always meant to be. Say now, I choose inner obedience over outer chaos. I rise in rhythm with the infinite. I align, therefore I attract. And so when you rise tomorrow, let it not be with effort. Let it be with reverence. For the one who obeys the soul walks in the footsteps of the miraculous. Beloved soul, the way you begin your day is not merely a habit, it is a declaration. The first thought you think in the morning becomes the vibration that governs the next 1,000. The first breath you take is not just for the lungs, it is the inhale of identity. And so, if you truly desire miracles, you must not only act differently, you must become someone else within. You must begin each day by remembering, you are not this body. You are not this fear. You are not this limited personality bound by stories. You are the soul, and the soul lives by divine law, not by emotional weather. When you rise at 4 a.m., before the world tells you who you You have a window of power. In that sacred hour, you are closest to your original blueprint, untainted, undisturbed, unconfused. This is when you must plant the seed of truth, not the thoughts of yesterday, not the echoes of trauma, but the vibration of your eternal identity. Say this aloud upon waking. I am not this body, I am not this mind, I am the immortal soul. I was sent to radiate divine light, not to chase the world's approval. I am already what I seek. Let these be more than words, let them be soul anchors. Each time you say them, you are realigning the spine of your consciousness. You are reminding the cells, the aura, the breath, that you are not defined by survival, but by divinity. Too many begin the day in reaction. They reach for their phones, their obligations, their worries. They enter the battlefield of life without the armor of truth. But you, if you rise at 4 a.m., you are given a moment to enter not as a beggar, but as a king, as a queen, as a child of the infinite, remembering the crown of spirit that rests invisibly upon your head. You are not meant to spend this life becoming worthy. You are meant to awaken to your worth. And
every morning you say, I am the soul. You are hammering away at the illusion that says you must earn love, prove value, or fear rejection. The breath itself becomes the ceremony. Inhale, I am divine. Exhale, I release illusion. With each repetition, the old self dissolves, the karmic habits weaken, and the true self begins to walk the day, not the scared child, not the performer, not the wounded dreamer, but the silent saint within, emerging, clear-eyed and steady. If you want to reshape your destiny, you must reshape your mornings. And to reshape your mornings, you must reshape your first thought. Not what shall I do today, but who shall I be? And when the answer is soul, then even your smallest actions carry the fragrance of the infinite. Say this now with devotion. I do not chase miracles, I align with them. Each breath raises me, each thought aligns me. Each day prepares me for divine remembrance. This is the beginning of a new identity. This is the vibration from which miracles are inevitable. A. The 5-part 4, AM practice, creating the field for divine intervention. You have asked, what do I do at 4 a.m.? How do I sit before the invisible? What shape should my devotion take? Hear me now, for I do not give you these instructions as ritual for its own sake, but as the structure through which the infinite enters. For even water needs a vessel to be poured into. These 5 actions are not random. They are the scaffolding of spiritual magnetism. 1. Awakening with stillness. When your eyes first open, do not move. Do not speak. Let no noise enter your body before God does. Remain in bed or sit upright, motionless. Let the silence of the hour become your sanctuary. Feel the breath. Sense the soul re-entering the temple of your awareness. And say inwardly, I am awake with God. I do not rush to the world. This is your entrance into holy stillness, the condition that magnetizes divine presence. 2nd spine awakening breathwork. Sit with a straight spine, your body relaxed but alert, like a flame rising toward heaven. Close your eyes and begin to breathe deeply, not to control the breath, but to become aware of it. As you inhale, visualize light rising from the base of your spine to the point between the eyebrows, the seat of Christ consciousness, the spiritual eye. As you exhale, imagine that light dissolving into the infinite. Do this for several minutes. This breathwork awakens your subtle spine, the astral pathway through which divine awareness flows. It is the staircase of ascent. You are not just breathing, you are climbing the ladder to God. 3rd mantra repetition. Now, with eyes gently uplifted to the spiritual eye, begin repeating a sacred phrase, either silently or aloud. I give you 2 options. Aum Guru, the vibration of the infinite united with divine guidance. Reveal thyself, a direct call to the beloved to unveil his presence. Repeat the mantra slowly, deliberately, 108 times if you are able. Use mala beads if you wish, or simply the rhythm of your breath. This is not just repetition, it is vibrational entrainment. Your whole being begins to resonate with what you invoke. Let the mantra soak into your aura like sunrise into a still lake. Fourth, affirmative declaration. Now speak aloud with the authority of your soul, not as a wish, but as a knowing. Each breath raises me. Each thought aligns me. Each moment is the unfolding of the divine. These declarations install your new identity, not in intellect, but in vibration. They reprogram the subconscious to become a receiver of grace, not merely a reactor to fear. Fifth, spiritual eye meditation. Finally, return to stillness. Let go of breath, of effort, of thought. Sit quietly, your gaze lifted to the spiritual eye. Do not try to force visions, simply observe. The longer you stay in silent awareness, the more receptive you become. This is where the miracle may enter, not in fireworks, but in vibrational shifts so subtle they remake your destiny silently. If nothing happens, remain faithful. For silence is often the language of the soul, and to those who persist, the spirit reveals itself, not as a stranger, but as your own self returned. B. Post-practice integration. Anchor the frequency into the day. After your practice is complete, do not leap into activity. Stay seated or move slowly. Let the vibrations settle into your being like sacred oil soaking into cloth. Then, take a journal and write one thing. What did I hear, feel, or remember today? Even if it is only a phrase, an image, a color, write it. These are the breadcrumbs of divine communication. Over time, patterns will emerge, synchronicities will follow, miracles will begin not in flashes, but in patterns of perception that alter your walk through the day. Now write a soul vow, just one line each morning, a statement that becomes your energetic command to the universe. Examples: I will remember who I am today. I choose God over fear. I walk as a magnet for divine order. Let this soul vow be your energetic imprint for the day. Let it guide your choices, your speech, your presence. Then, close the practice with one final breath. Inhale, I am the soul. Exhale, let this day serve my divine remembrance. Now you are ready, not to conquer the world, but to walk through it as a living altar. If you do this for 21 mornings, without fail, without haste, without bargaining, you will begin to notice what others call miracles. But you will not be surprised, because you will realize miracles do not come to the worthy, they come to the prepared. Say it now. For 21 days I rise. For 21 days I remember. For 21 days I let the miracle enter. You are not begging the universe. You are preparing your inner temple for the divine to walk in. Beloved soul, the final step is the most sacred. To seal your commitment with the power of spoken word and the intention of the heart. For no vow, no promise, no sacred action is complete until it is made public, not for others' eyes, but for your own soul's recognition. This is the declaration that transforms ritual into revolution, practice into transformation. Say aloud with conviction, for 21 mornings I will rise at the hour of God. For 21 mornings I will sit in stillness and listen. For 21 mornings I will align my breath, my thought, and my soul with the infinite. Do not speak these words lightly. Speak them as one who knows the weight and power of sacred obedience. Let the vibration of your voice carry beyond this moment into the unseen realms where your higher self awaits your fidelity. And now I invite you to write, in the space below, your own sacred vow. It need not be long or eloquent. It need only be true and from the heart. For example, I will rise at 4 a.m. and become a magnet for divine miracles. Or simply, I commit to the hour of God. When you write this, you are not merely signing a paper, you are casting an energetic beacon. You are telling the universe, and most importantly your soul, that you have chosen to partner with the divine in your own awakening. And with this partnership comes blessing. May your mornings become your miracles. May your breath become your altar. May your 21 days become your rebirth. This is no empty promise. It is the living law of spirit. When you honor the hour God has set, God honors your devotion with unseen grace. So rise, beloved, rise before the dawn. Sit in stillness, breathe in light, and watch as miracles begin to move through your life, not as random chance, but as the natural fruit of obedience and alignment. Om Shanti. Peace be unto your soul.
This eclipse isn't coming to frighten you, it's coming to free you. While others run in fear from the shadow, I want to teach you how to dance in it. Because you see, my dear devotee, what appears as darkness to the unawakened eye is actually concentrated light to the prepared soul. Let me show you how to prepare. My beloved friend, I am so deeply happy you are here with me today. You know, in all my years of guiding precious souls toward the divine beloved, walking alongside seekers from every corner of this beautiful earth, I have noticed something absolutely beautiful about the way the universe works. The very moments that seem to challenge us the most, the experiences that appear to shake the foundations of our understanding, are often the greatest gifts the cosmos offers for our spiritual awakening. And this September's eclipse, dear one, is exactly such a magnificent gift. You may be feeling spiritually stuck right now, as if you're walking through thick spiritual fog, wondering if you're truly growing on your path, or just going through the familiar motions of your daily practices. Perhaps you've been overwhelmed by all the rapid changes happening in our world, feeling waves of anxiety wash over you when you think about what these cosmic events and global transformations might mean for your life and the lives of those you love. Maybe you're searching desperately for deeper meaning in your existence but don't know where to look next, having read the books and tried the practices but still feeling like something essential is missing. Or you might have this persistent, nagging feeling deep in your soul that you're somehow missing important opportunities for spiritual growth, that doorways to higher consciousness are opening around you, but you can't quite see them or don't know how to walk through them. Dear precious soul, I want you to know that I understand these feelings intimately because I have walked every step of this winding spiritual path myself. I have felt the confusion, the yearning, the occasional despair that comes when we sense there is so much more to existence than what our physical senses reveal. Yet we struggle to access those higher dimensions of being. But I want you to know something wonderful, something that will change how you see not just this eclipse, but your entire spiritual journey. You are not here by accident. Your beautiful, eternal soul chose to incarnate during this exact moment in cosmic history for a very special and profound reason. Before you took birth in this physical form, your soul looked out across the vast tapestry of time and space and said with great excitement and purpose, "Yes, I want to be alive during these eclipse years of the early 21st century. I want to participate directly in this cosmic acceleration of human consciousness. I want to be part of the great awakening that is sweeping across our planet. Unlike those fearful voices who speak of eclipses as omens of doom and destruction, as harbingers of catastrophe and cosmic punishment, I come to you today with the most joyful truth your heart has ever heard. This eclipse is not a test you must survive or a trial you must endure. This eclipse is your personal cosmic graduation ceremony, orchestrated by the Divine Beloved specifically for your soul's advancement. While others offer frightening predictions designed to keep you small and afraid, I offer you the tools of preparation that will expand your consciousness beyond anything you thought possible. While they create fear that contracts your heart and closes your spiritual perception, I bring you ancient wisdom and practical techniques for fearless awakening that will open you to receive the full blessing of this cosmic moment. By the time we finish our sacred conversation today, you will understand with crystal clarity why your soul chose to be here for this eclipse. More importantly, you will know exactly how to align yourself with these incredibly powerful cosmic energies for your highest spiritual good. You will have practical tools you can use not just during the eclipse itself, but for the rest of your spiritual journey. You will leave our time together feeling not anxious about cosmic events, but excited to participate consciously in the universe's grand plan for your awakening. Let me begin by sharing with you a story that fundamentally changed my understanding of what eclipses really are and why they matter so profoundly for every soul seeking union with the divine. This happened many years ago when I was blessed to sit with my beloved guru, Sri Yukteswar Giri, during a powerful total solar eclipse that passed over our ashram in India. I was much younger then, still in the early stages of learning the deeper mysteries of cosmic consciousness and the intricate relationships between celestial events and spiritual evolution. My understanding was largely intellectual at that point. I had read the ancient texts that spoke of eclipses as times of heightened spiritual opportunity, but I had not yet experienced their transformative power directly. As the day of the eclipse approached, I found myself feeling a strange mixture of anticipation and uncertainty. There was definitely something different in the energy around our ashram. The very air seemed to vibrate with an unusual intensity. Birds behaved differently. Even the plants seemed more alert, as if they too were preparing for something extraordinary. On the morning of the eclipse, I joined my guru in his meditation garden well before dawn. The sky was clear, perfect for observing the celestial dance that was about to unfold. My master sat in his customary meditation posture, beneath the ancient banyan tree, his spine perfectly erect, his face already radiating that deep inner peace that comes from constant communion with the divine. As the moon began its journey across the face of the sun, I felt an immediate shift in the atmosphere around us. It wasn't just the gradual dimming of light, though that was certainly profound. There was an almost electric quality to the air, as if invisible doors were opening between dimensions, as if the normal barriers between the physical and spiritual worlds were becoming permeable. I found myself feeling slightly overwhelmed by these sensations and whispered to my guru, "Master, what is happening here? Should we be concerned about this cosmic event? I feel such powerful energies moving, and I'm not sure how to respond to them." Without opening his eyes, Sri Yukteswar smiled with such radiant joy that his face seemed to glow even brighter as the external light continued to fade around us. He spoke in that gentle, musical voice that always carried the authority of direct spiritual experience. "Yogananda, my dear child, watch very carefully what is happening both outside and inside. The external shadow you see in the sky is revealing the internal light you carry in your soul." He paused, allowing me to absorb this initial teaching, then continued with words that would transform my understanding forever. "What you are witnessing in the heavens is a perfect symbol, a cosmic teaching story about what must happen in every soul's journey back to God realization. The ego self, represented by the moon, must pass directly in front of the divine self, represented by the sun, creating what appears to the untrained eye to be darkness and obstruction." As he spoke, I began to see the eclipse with entirely new eyes. "But this temporary shadow," he continued, "this apparent blocking of the light, is not the enemy of illumination. It is the very condition that allows us to perceive the corona, that magnificent ring of divine light that was always present around the sun, but completely invisible when the sun's surface was too bright for our eyes to bear." The profundity of this metaphor struck me like lightning. I realized that all the challenges in my spiritual life, all the moments when I felt God's presence was hidden from me, were actually opportunities to discover deeper layers of divine light that I couldn't perceive during the easier, brighter times. As I sat there absorbing this teaching, something extraordinary began to happen in my own meditation. Instead of experiencing the eclipse as an external event that I was observing, I began to feel it as an internal spiritual process. The dimming of the outer light corresponded with an intensification of inner illumination. It was as if the shadow of the eclipse was actually revealing layers of consciousness within my own being that I had never perceived before. During the minutes leading up to totality, I felt my ordinary sense of individual identity becoming lighter, more transparent. The boundaries between Yogananda the person and the cosmos itself began to dissolve. I was no longer a separate being watching an eclipse. I was consciousness itself, experiencing its own divine play of revelation and concealment. Then came the moment of totality, when the sun was completely hidden behind the moon. What happened next defies adequate description in human language, but I must try to share it with you because it illustrates the incredible spiritual potential that eclipses offer to prepared souls. My individual consciousness dissolved completely into what the ancient scriptures call turiya, the fourth state of consciousness beyond waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. For those precious minutes of totality, I experienced directly what I had only understood intellectually before: that the apparent separation between individual self and universal self is nothing more than a convincing illusion. I was not Yogananda looking at an eclipse. I was the eclipse itself. I was the moon, the sun, the earth, and the space between them. I was the darkness and the light, the concealment and the revelation. I was the eternal witness of all cosmic events, and simultaneously the events themselves. In that indescribable state, I understood that every eclipse throughout history has been the universe looking at itself, celebrating its own infinite creativity. When the eclipse moved toward completion and normal sunlight began to return, I remained in that expanded state of cosmic consciousness for many hours. The experience had burned away layers of spiritual ignorance that I didn't even know I was carrying. I understood then, with the certainty that comes only from direct experience, why the ancient masters had spoken of eclipses as supreme opportunities for spiritual breakthrough. These celestial events are not mere astronomical curiosities or random cosmic accidents. They are carefully orchestrated divine initiations, cosmic invitations extended to every soul that has developed sufficient spiritual receptivity to receive their transformative power. But let me share with you another story, one that my guru told me that very same day, because it illustrates the other side of this cosmic opportunity. What happens when fear prevents us from receiving the gifts that eclipses offer? He told me about a devoted female student who had lived several decades earlier, a woman of absolutely sincere heart who had been preparing diligently for spiritual realization for many years. She meditated faithfully every morning and evening, lived a life of selfless service to others, studied the sacred scriptures with dedication, and maintained the highest moral and ethical standards. Her guru had often told her that she was very close to a major spiritual breakthrough. This sincere seeker had developed genuine love for God and demonstrated remarkable discipline in her spiritual practices. She had purified her diet, simplified her lifestyle, and cultivated the qualities of compassion, humility, and devotion that are essential for God realization. By all outer measures, she was an exemplary spiritual student, ready for the next level of awakening. Then came news of a powerful total solar eclipse that would pass directly over her region. The ancient astrological texts and spiritual commentaries all indicated that this particular eclipse would carry extraordinary potential for consciousness expansion. Her guru and senior disciples began preparing intensively, increasing their meditation hours and purifying their consciousness even further in anticipation of this cosmic gift. But as the day of the eclipse approached, this sincere woman began to feel afraid. She had heard stories from village elders about eclipses bringing bad luck, terrible accidents, and spiritual disturbances. Despite her years of spiritual training, despite her guru's repeated assurances that this eclipse was a blessing rather than a curse, fear began to dominate her thinking. She started to imagine all sorts of terrible things that might happen during the eclipse. What if she lost her mind during the intense cosmic energies? What if dark forces took advantage of the unusual celestial configuration to attack her spiritually? What if the eclipse triggered some terrible karma from her past lives? These fearful thoughts, once they began, seemed to multiply and intensify with each passing day. Instead of embracing this moment as the culmination of her years of spiritual preparation, instead of recognizing it as the cosmic opportunity her soul had been waiting for, she allowed fear to build an impenetrable wall around her consciousness. When the day of the eclipse arrived, rather than joining her guru and fellow disciples in meditation to receive the cosmic blessing, she closed all the curtains in her home, locked her doors, and spent the entire eclipse period in fearful prayer, begging God to protect her from what she believed was a dangerous and potentially harmful celestial event. My guru's eyes grew infinitely tender with compassion as he continued this story. What this precious soul didn't understand, he said with such love in his voice, was that her years of sincere spiritual practice had prepared her consciousness perfectly for this moment of cosmic grace. The eclipse energies would have catalyzed her awareness and lifted her directly into the divine union she had been seeking all her life. But fear created a barrier so thick that even the most powerful cosmic forces could not penetrate it. He explained that fear, when it reaches a certain intensity, actually creates what could be called a spiritual force field that repels the very blessings we most need. It's not that God or the cosmic forces become angry with us or decide to withhold their grace. Rather, Fear contracts our consciousness so tightly that we become temporarily incapable of receiving what is always being offered freely. The woman continued to live for many more years after that eclipse, continuing her spiritual practices with the same dedication and sincerity as before. She remained a good person, a loving person, a person genuinely devoted to finding God. But for the rest of her life, she carried a subtle sense that something precious had eluded her, some golden opportunity that had somehow slipped through her fingers. It wasn't until her final years that a visiting sage helped her understand what had really happened during that eclipse. The cosmic event hadn't been a spiritual test to survive or endure. It had been an invitation to soar into the highest realms of consciousness. Her years of preparation had been perfectly adequate. What had prevented her breakthrough was not any spiritual inadequacy, but simply the choice to respond to a divine invitation with fear instead of faith. This story touched my heart so deeply because I realized how easily any of us could make the same mistake. We can spend years, even lifetimes, preparing for spiritual advancement, purifying our consciousness, and developing our inner faculties, then miss the very moments when the universe opens its doors widest to welcome us home to our true nature. The tragedy is not that we're punished for missing these opportunities. Divine Mother is infinitely patient and compassionate, and there will always be other chances. The tragedy is simply that we postpone our own joy. We delay our own liberation. We choose to remain in limitation when expansion is being offered freely. But now let me share with you what happened to me personally during my most transformative eclipse experience, because this will show you the incredible potential that awaits when we approach these cosmic events with proper preparation and the right spiritual attitude. This occurred several years after my time with Sri Yukteswar, when I was living at our Self-Realization Fellowship Retreat Center in California, spending long hours in deep meditation and intensive spiritual practice. I had received word that a total solar eclipse would pass directly over our location, and instead of viewing this as a distraction from my regular spiritual routine, I decided to make it the centerpiece of the most intensive meditation retreat I had ever undertaken. For 6 weeks beforehand, I prepared my consciousness through extended meditation sessions, sometimes sitting in samadhi for 8 to 10 hours at a time. I simplified my diet even further, taking only fruits and milk to keep the body light and the mind clear. I increased my pranayama practice, working with the subtle life energies to purify the nervous system and prepare it to handle intense spiritual experiences. I spent hours each day in prayer, not asking for anything specific, but simply opening my heart wider and wider to receive whatever Divine Mother wanted to give me through this cosmic event. During these weeks of preparation, I began to sense that something extraordinary was building in the subtle dimensions. It wasn't just my own consciousness that was shifting. It felt as if the entire fabric of reality around our retreat center was becoming more malleable, more responsive to spiritual intention. Other residents of the center reported unusual dreams, spontaneous meditative experiences, and a general sense that something significant was approaching. On the morning of the eclipse, I entered my meditation room while it was still completely dark outside and began what would become a continuous meditation lasting throughout the entire celestial event and for many hours afterward. I had prepared everything in advance so that I could remain in unbroken meditation, water nearby in case my body needed it, but positioned so I could drink without opening my eyes or breaking my concentration. As dawn approached, I felt my consciousness naturally beginning to expand beyond its normal boundaries. Even before the eclipse began, I could sense the approaching cosmic energies like a sailor feels an approaching storm through subtle changes in the wind and atmosphere. There was a quality of heightened spiritual electricity in the air that made every cell in my body tingle with anticipation. When the moon began its journey across the face of the sun, the external dimming seemed to correspond perfectly with an internal brightening. It was as if the reduction of outer light was somehow concentrating and intensifying the inner light of consciousness itself. As the eclipse progressed toward totality, I felt layer after layer of ordinary awareness peeling away like the skins of an onion. First to dissolve was my sense of being located in a particular physical body. My awareness expanded to fill the entire meditation room, then the building, then the grounds of the retreat center. But this wasn't just imagination or visualization. It was direct, immediate experience of consciousness without boundaries. Next to dissolve was my identification with being a particular person named Yogananda with a specific history and personality. These aspects of identity didn't disappear entirely, but they became like distant memories, like roles I had once played in a cosmic drama but was no longer actively performing. As totality approached, even my sense of being human dissolved into something infinitely vaster. I began to experience myself as pure consciousness itself, the very awareness in which all experiences arise and pass away. I was the space in which the eclipse was occurring, the eternal witness of all cosmic events throughout time. Then, at the precise moment of totality, when the sun was completely hidden behind the moon and the world was bathed in that otherworldly twilight that only occurs during total eclipses, something utterly indescribable happened. My individual consciousness didn't just expand, it exploded into infinity. I was the eclipse and everything it touched. I was every person on Earth experiencing this cosmic event. I was the moon casting its shadow and the sun radiating its hidden light. I was the ancient civilizations that had watched eclipses with awe and the future generations who would witness eclipses yet to come. I was the cosmic intelligence that choreographs the dance of planets and stars and the eternal love that holds all of creation in its embrace. In that state, I understood with absolute certainty that consciousness is not produced by the brain or contained within individual bodies. Consciousness is the very fabric of reality itself, the invisible foundation upon which all experiences are woven. Individual minds are like waves on the ocean of universal consciousness. They appear to be separate, but they are actually temporary modifications of the one eternal awareness. I also understood why eclipses have such profound spiritual significance. These celestial events create what could be called cracks in the cosmic egg, moments when the normal veils between dimensions become transparent. For souls who have prepared their consciousness adequately, eclipses offer direct access to states of awareness that might otherwise take years or lifetimes to achieve through regular spiritual practice alone. When the eclipse moved past totality and normal sunlight began to return, I remained in that expanded state of cosmic consciousness for the rest of that day and well into the following morning. Even as I gradually returned to normal awareness and resumed my daily activities, something fundamental had shifted permanently. I had experienced directly that my true nature is not the small, separate self I had imagined myself to be, but the infinite, eternal self that is the source and substance of all existence. This experience became the foundation for everything I would later teach about the true nature of human identity and our relationship to the divine. It showed me beyond any possibility of doubt that what we call spiritual realization is not about acquiring something new or foreign to our nature. It's about remembering and returning to what we have always been underneath the layers of forgetfulness and identification with limitation. Now that you've heard these stories from my own spiritual journey and the experiences of other seekers, let me share with you the deeper principles that will help you understand not just this September eclipse, but how to recognize and embrace every moment of cosmic significance that comes into your life. The first principle I want you to understand deeply is what I call the sacred dance of light and shadow. You see, my dear friend, most people in our modern world have been conditioned to think of light and darkness as opposites, as enemies in some cosmic battle between good and evil. But this dualistic understanding keeps us trapped in spiritual adolescence, when we are meant to mature into the recognition of unity underlying all apparent opposites. An eclipse teaches us perhaps the most beautiful and profound truth about the nature of spiritual evolution. The shadow is not the enemy of light. It is light's perfect partner in a cosmic dance of revelation and discovery. Just as the moon's shadow during an eclipse allows us to see the sun's magnificent corona that is normally invisible, the challenges and apparent darkness in our personal lives allow us to discover inner light and spiritual resources we never knew we possessed. Think deeply about your own spiritual journey for a moment. Haven't your greatest periods of growth and expansion often come during your most difficult and challenging times? When everything in your outer life seemed dark and uncertain, when you felt most alone and confused, didn't you discover inner strength, wisdom, and resilience you didn't know you had? This is the eclipse principle operating in your daily experience. The external events in our world, whether they are personal challenges like illness or loss, or cosmic phenomena like eclipses and planetary alignments, are mirrors reflecting our internal state of consciousness back to us. They are opportunities for the universe to show us aspects of ourselves that we might not notice during calmer, more ordinary times. When we learn to see an eclipse not as something happening to us that we must passively endure, but as something revealing through us the eternal dance of consciousness itself. We begin to participate consciously in creation, rather than just observing it from the sidelines. We become co-creators with the divine, rather than victims of circumstance. This shift in perspective changes everything about how we approach, not just eclipses, but every experience in our lives. Difficulties become opportunities for discovering hidden strengths. Uncertainties become invitations to deepen our faith and trust in the underlying intelligence of existence. Even apparent failures become stepping stones to greater wisdom and compassion. The shadow teaches us about the light in ways that constant brightness never could. Without contrast, we might take our blessings for granted. Without challenges, we might never discover the depths of our own spiritual resources. The eclipse shows us that what we sometimes fear as darkness is actually concentrated light, temporarily veiled to create the perfect conditions for revelation. This is why advanced spiritual practitioners throughout history have often sought out challenging conditions for their most intensive practices. They understood that spiritual muscles, like physical muscles, grow stronger when they encounter resistance. They knew that the cosmic intelligence often uses apparent obstacles as the very means of our advancement. So when this eclipse comes in September, instead of approaching it with fear or apprehension, I want you to welcome it as a cosmic gift specifically designed to reveal new dimensions of your own divine nature. The shadow it casts is not coming to harm you, it's coming to show you inner light you didn't know you possessed. The second essential principle is understanding what I call cosmic timing and soul readiness. There is a magnificent intelligence operating throughout the universe that coordinates outer events with inner preparedness in ways that the rational mind can barely comprehend. Nothing happens by accident, especially not the major cosmic events that seem to coincide with periods of intense spiritual seeking and global awakening. You are not born at a random time in cosmic history. Your eternal soul, in its infinite wisdom, looked forward through the vast expanse of time and space and chose very deliberately to incarnate during this specific period of accelerated cosmic activity. Your soul examined all the potential opportunities for growth and awakening that different historical periods might offer, and it said with great excitement and purpose, yes, I want to be alive during the great eclipses and cosmic alignments of the early 21st century. I want to participate directly in this unprecedented acceleration of human consciousness that is occurring on planet Earth. I want you to really feel the profound significance of this truth, dear one. Your presence here, listening to these words right now, reading about eclipse preparation and spiritual awakening is not a coincidence. It is evidence of your soul's readiness for the transformations these cosmic events are designed to catalyze. But readiness doesn't mean we're already perfect, or that we won't face challenges along the way. Spiritual readiness means we have developed enough inner strength and wisdom to use challenges as stepping stones, rather than allowing them to become stumbling blocks. It means we're prepared to see cosmic events as opportunities for awakening rather than threats to our security and comfort. The universe operates on perfect timing, but we must learn to recognize and cooperate with this divine timing rather than fighting against it or trying to force things to happen according to our personal preferences and timetables. Spiritual ripeness is very much like fruit ripeness. It cannot be artificially forced or hurried, but when the moment is exactly right, transformation happens naturally, joyfully, and with surprising ease. This is why some people can meditate for decades with only gradual progress, then suddenly experience a quantum leap in consciousness during a powerful cosmic event like an eclipse. It's not that their previous efforts were wasted. Every moment of sincere spiritual practice has been preparing them for this moment of breakthrough. The eclipse simply provides the final catalyst that allows all their accumulated spiritual work to suddenly crystallize into direct realization. Think of it like filling a bucket with water, drop by drop, over many years. Each drop represents a meditation session, an act of kindness, a moment of selfless service, a choice to respond with love instead of fear. For a long time, it might seem like nothing dramatic is happening, just steady, gradual accumulation. But then comes the eclipse, like the final drop that causes the bucket to overflow. Suddenly, all the previous preparation manifests as a flood of spiritual awakening. This is why it's so important not to judge your spiritual progress by comparing yourself to others or by expecting constant dramatic experiences. Trust that every sincere effort you make is preparing you for your own perfect moment of cosmic receptivity. Trust that your soul knows exactly what it's doing by choosing to be here during these times of intense planetary transformation. The third fundamental principle is mastering the sacred art of receptivity and divine grace. Here's something absolutely beautiful. I want you to understand about how cosmic energies interact with human consciousness. These powerful celestial events like eclipses don't force spiritual awakening upon us against our will. They offer it freely and wait patiently for us to open ourselves and receive what is always being given. Think of cosmic grace like rain falling equally upon the earth. The rain doesn't discriminate or play favorites. It falls with equal abundance on fertile gardens and barren deserts, on receptive soil and hardened stone. But only the seeds that have been planted in properly prepared earth, soil that has been cultivated and made ready to receive moisture, can sprout and grow into beautiful plants and nourishing food. Your spiritual practices, your daily meditation, your sincere desire for truth, and your efforts to live with love and compassion, these activities prepare the soil of your consciousness to receive the rain of cosmic grace that is always falling. The eclipse doesn't create this grace. It simply intensifies it and makes it more readily available to those who know how to open themselves to receive it. But here's something crucial to understand about working with powerful spiritual energies, like those present during eclipses. These cosmic events tend to amplify whatever tendencies are already present in our consciousness. If we approach an eclipse with fear, anxiety, or spiritual arrogance, those negative qualities can be intensified and magnified. But if we prepare ourselves with humility, love, genuine yearning for divine truth, and selfless service to others, those beautiful qualities are amplified instead. This is why proper preparation is so essential. We don't prepare for an eclipse because the cosmic energies are dangerous or harmful. We prepare because we want to ensure that what gets amplified in our consciousness is our highest and most beautiful qualities rather than our fears and limitations. The key to working skillfully with eclipse energies is maintaining what the ancient masters called divine equanimity, remaining peacefully centered and balanced, even when experiencing very intense spiritual phenomena. This doesn't mean being emotionally flat or unresponsive to the profound energies moving through you. It means maintaining the deep inner knowing that you are the eternal soul having a temporary eclipse experience, not a temporary personality being overwhelmed by cosmic forces beyond your control. When you can maintain this perspective, eclipse experiences become incredibly beautiful and transformative rather than overwhelming or frightening. You remain the calm center around which the cosmic energies dance, appreciating their power and beauty while never losing touch with your own essential stability and peace. This quality of divine equanimity is something you can cultivate in your daily life, not just during eclipses. Every time you face a challenging situation with calmness and wisdom, instead of reacting with fear or anger, you're developing the spiritual muscles you'll need to handle the intensified energies of cosmic events. Every time you choose love over fear, trust over worry, or service over selfishness, you're preparing your consciousness to be a clear channel for divine grace. Understanding these principles intellectually is wonderful and necessary, my dear friend, but Divine Mother doesn't want you to just think about these truths. She wants you to experience them directly and personally. Let me give you the specific, practical tools that will help you make this September eclipse a genuine doorway to higher consciousness and lasting spiritual transformation. The first practice I want to teach you is what I call eclipse preparation meditation. This is a special form of meditation that you should begin at least 4 weeks before the eclipse occurs, practicing it daily to gradually attune your consciousness to the cosmic energies that will be at their peak during the eclipse itself. Beginning each morning 2 hours before sunrise, when the spiritual atmosphere is naturally most conducive to deep meditation, I want you to set aside at least 30 minutes for this preparation practice. Start by creating a sacred space in your home where you can meditate without interruption. This doesn't need to be elaborate or expensive. Simply a quiet corner where you can sit comfortably, perhaps with a candle or picture that reminds you of divine light and love. Begin your meditation with 5 very deep, conscious breaths, but don't just breathe mechanically. With each inhalation, imagine that you are drawing in pure divine light, cosmic intelligence, and universal love. With each exhalation, release completely any fears, anxieties, or concerns you might have about the upcoming eclipse or about your spiritual worthiness to receive cosmic blessings. After these preparatory breaths, practice this visualization that will attune you to eclipse energies in the most positive and receptive way possible. Imagine yourself sitting peacefully in a beautiful natural setting as the eclipse occurs overhead. See the shadow of the moon beginning to cross the face of the sun, but instead of experiencing this as darkness or obstruction, perceive it as a gentle, loving presence that is creating the perfect conditions for your spiritual awakening. Feel the shadow not as something foreign or threatening, but as the loving touch of Divine Mother herself, temporarily veiling the outer light so that you can discover the infinitely brighter inner light of your own true nature. As the imagined eclipse progresses toward totality in your visualization, feel your heart opening like a lotus flower in the morning sun, ready to receive whatever spiritual gift the universe most wants to offer your precious soul. During the peak of your visualization, when you imagine the sun completely hidden behind the moon, practice this powerful mantra with deep feeling and complete sincerity. I am ready to receive divine truth in whatever form serves my highest good. I welcome cosmic grace with an open heart and a surrendered mind. I trust completely in the perfect timing of my soul's evolution and awakening. Repeat this mantra not just as words, but as a genuine prayer from the deepest center of your being to the heart of all creation. Feel yourself making a sacred covenant with the universe, promising to use whatever insights and energies you receive during the eclipse for the benefit of all beings, not just for your personal advancement. End your preparation meditation by spending a few minutes in silent gratitude, thanking the divine for the opportunity to be alive during these extraordinary times, and for the countless blessings that are constantly flowing into your life, often unrecognized and unacknowledged. The second essential practice is what I call shadow integration work. This is profound inner work that you can and should do every day, not just during eclipse periods, but it becomes especially powerful and necessary during times of intensified cosmic activity. The principle behind shadow integration is beautifully simple, yet spiritually revolutionary. Instead of trying to suppress, deny, or fight against the aspects of yourself that you consider negative or unspiritual, you learn to embrace these shadow qualities with the same loving acceptance you would offer to a frightened child who needs comfort and guidance. Each morning, as part of your daily spiritual practice, ask yourself this honest and courageous question. What shadow aspect of my personality or consciousness am I ready to acknowledge, embrace, and transform today? Then sit quietly and allow whatever wants to emerge to come forward without judgment or resistance. Maybe it's impatience with your spiritual progress that you've been trying to push away because you think spiritual people should always be peaceful and accepting. Maybe it's fear about whether you're truly worthy of cosmic blessings and spiritual advancement. Maybe it's anger about injustices you see in the world. Anger that you've been suppressing because you believe spiritual people shouldn't feel such intense emotions. Maybe it's envy of other people who seem to be more advanced on their spiritual paths than you are. Whatever shadow material emerges during this practice, instead of pushing it away or criticizing yourself for having these very human feelings, practice looking at these aspects of yourself with the same compassionate curiosity you would bring to observing clouds passing across the sky. Notice them without identifying completely with them. Acknowledge them without being ashamed of them. Keep a simple journal during the weeks and months surrounding the eclipse, writing down your honest thoughts and feelings without any editing or censorship. Don't worry about whether your thoughts are spiritual enough or positive enough. Just write truthfully about what you're actually experiencing rather than what you think you should be experiencing. As you continue this practice over time, you'll begin to notice certain patterns emerging. You'll see that many of your shadow qualities actually contain tremendous spiritual energy that has simply been misdirected or suppressed. When we learn to embrace these aspects of ourselves with love and understanding, instead of resistance and shame, they naturally transform into sources of strength, wisdom, and compassion. For example, anger about injustice can transform into powerful motivation for selfless service. Fear about your spiritual progress can become healthy humility and sincere surrender to divine guidance. Impatience with yourself can evolve into compassionate understanding of the gradual nature of all authentic growth and transformation. The goal of shadow work isn't to eliminate all challenging emotions or difficult personality traits that would actually make us less human and less capable of relating to others with genuine empathy. The goal is to bring conscious awareness to all aspects of ourselves so that we can choose how to express our full humanity in ways that serve love rather than fear. During eclipse periods, this shadow integration work becomes especially important because the intensified cosmic energies tend to bring unconscious material to the surface of awareness more rapidly than usual. Instead of being caught off guard by unexpected emotional reactions or psychological material that you thought you had already resolved, you can meet these experiences with the tools and perspective that shadow work provides. The third essential practice is post-eclipse integration, and this may actually be the most important of all the practices I'm sharing with you today. This is because the real spiritual work often begins after the dramatic cosmic moment has passed, and you're faced with the challenge of integrating whatever insights or energies you received into your daily life. Many sincere seekers make the mistake of thinking that a powerful spiritual experience like an eclipse breakthrough is the end goal of the spiritual path. They have a profound opening during the cosmic event, then gradually return to their ordinary consciousness and daily routines without doing the necessary work to anchor and integrate their expanded awareness. For at least 3 months after the eclipse, I want you to maintain extra meditation time beyond your normal practice. Even if you can only add 15 or 20 minutes to your daily sitting, this additional practice time will help you continue to access and stabilize whatever new levels of consciousness were opened during the eclipse itself. Pay very careful attention to your dreams during the post-eclipse period, as they often contain important messages and guidance that your ordinary waking consciousness might miss. Keep a dream journal next to your bed and write down whatever you remember immediately upon waking, even if the dream content seems strange or unrelated to your spiritual life. Often, the deepest teachings come through symbolic language that speaks directly to the soul, even when the rational mind doesn't immediately understand the meaning. Dreams during eclipse periods frequently contain what I call cosmic downloads, information and insights from higher dimensions of consciousness that are gradually filtering into your everyday awareness. Notice also how your intuition may be significantly stronger during the months following an eclipse. You might find yourself knowing things without knowing how you know them, or receiving guidance about important life decisions through subtle inner promptings rather than logical analysis. This heightened intuitive sensitivity is one of the most practical gifts that eclipse experiences often provide, but it requires careful attention and trust to develop fully. Pay attention to how your compassion and understanding of others may be deeper and more natural than before. Many people report that after a powerful eclipse experience, they find it much easier to see through surface personality differences to the divine essence that all beings share. This expanded perception of unity is another common eclipse gift that can transform all your relationships if you learn to trust and act upon it. Create a sacred space in your home where you can continue to connect with the eclipse energy long after the cosmic event has passed. This doesn't need to be anything elaborate or expensive, perhaps just a quiet corner with a candle, a crystal or stone that you held during your eclipse meditation, and maybe a picture or symbol that reminds you of the expanded consciousness you experienced. The important thing is having a physical anchor, a tangible reminder of the spiritual opening you've experienced. When the demands of daily life threaten to pull you back into old patterns of thinking and behaving, you can return to this sacred space to reconnect with the deeper truth of who you really are. Most importantly, during the integration period, seek out community with other souls who understand and support this path of conscious spiritual evolution. Share your eclipse experiences with trusted friends who won't dismiss or minimize what you've gone through. Learn from the experiences of others who have also been working consciously with cosmic energies for their spiritual development. Remember that we are all walking each other home to our divine source. The eclipse awakens us not just as isolated individuals, but as part of the greater family of consciousness that is evolving together during these extraordinary times on planet Earth. Your personal awakening contributes to the awakening of all humanity, and the awakening of others supports and amplifies your own growth. Consider joining or forming a meditation group specifically focused on conscious participation in cosmic events. Having regular contact with others who share your understanding of eclipses as spiritual opportunities rather than astronomical curiosities will help you maintain perspective during times when the dominant culture around you might not understand or support your expanded awareness. Now, my dear friend, let me share with you some additional insights about working with eclipse energies that come from decades of direct experience and observation of how these cosmic events affect human consciousness. One of the most important things to understand is that eclipses often trigger what I call spiritual acceleration periods that can last for months or even years after the initial cosmic event. You may find that synchronicities increase dramatically in your life, that meaningful coincidences happen with surprising frequency, and that the universe seems to be responding more quickly and directly to your thoughts, intentions, and prayers. This accelerated manifestation can be wonderful if you're focusing your mind on positive, loving, and spiritually constructive thoughts and desires. But it also means you need to be more careful than usual about maintaining mental discipline and emotional equilibrium. Negative thought patterns, fears, and destructive emotions can also manifest more quickly during these periods of heightened cosmic sensitivity. This is why the preparation work I've shared with you is so crucial. When you've done the inner work of identifying and integrating your shadow aspects, when you've cultivated genuine love and compassion as your predominant emotional states, when you've developed skill in maintaining divine equanimity, even during challenging circumstances, then the acceleration effects of eclipse energy become tremendous blessings rather than potential complications. Many people also experience what could be called cosmic healing during and after eclipse periods. Physical ailments that have persisted for years sometimes clear up spontaneously. Emotional wounds and psychological patterns that seem resistant to change suddenly dissolve. Relationships that have been stuck in destructive cycles find new levels of harmony and understanding. This healing potential is one of the most beautiful gifts that eclipse energies offer, but it requires a specific approach to receive fully. Instead of approaching the eclipse with a list of things you want to be healed or changed, approach it with complete openness to receive whatever healing and transformation would serve your highest good, even if it's different from what your personality thinks it wants. Sometimes cosmic healing involves the removal of something from your life that you thought you wanted to keep, a relationship, a job, a living situation, or even certain personality traits that have become familiar but are actually limiting your growth. Trust that the cosmic intelligence knows better than your ordinary mind what needs to be released and what needs to be cultivated for your continued spiritual evolution. Other people experience what I call cosmic calling clarification during eclipse periods. If you've been uncertain about your life purpose, confused about what direction to take your career or relationships, or unclear about how to best serve the world with your unique gifts and talents, eclipse energies often provide remarkable clarity about these fundamental life questions. This clarity doesn't always come in the form of dramatic visions or supernatural revelations, though sometimes it does. More often, it manifests as a gradual but definite strengthening of your inner knowing about what truly matters to you and what directions will bring you the greatest fulfillment and opportunity for service. Pay attention to what activities and interests begin to feel more compelling in the months following the eclipse. Notice what kinds of service opportunities seem to appear naturally in your environment. Observe what types of people you find yourself drawn to collaborate with. These subtle shifts in attraction and interest often contain important guidance about how your life path may be evolving. Now let me address something that many sincere spiritual seekers worry about when preparing for eclipse experiences. Some people become concerned that they're not spiritually advanced enough to benefit from cosmic energies, that eclipses are only for highly developed masters and advanced practitioners who have already achieved significant levels of realization. My dear friend, this concern, while understandable, is based on a fundamental misunderstanding of how divine grace operates. Cosmic events like eclipses are not rewards for spiritual achievement that must be earned through years of perfect practice. They are gifts of grace offered freely to every soul that is sincere in its desire for truth and willing to receive what is being given. Some of the most profound eclipse awakenings I have witnessed have occurred in people who considered themselves spiritual beginners, people who had been meditating for only months rather than years, people who still struggled with basic challenges like maintaining regular practice or controlling their thoughts and emotions. What these people had in common was not advanced spiritual achievement, but rather genuine humility, sincere longing for divine connection, and the willingness to surrender their preconceptions about how spiritual awakening should look or feel. They approached the eclipse not with spiritual pride or elaborate expectations, but with a simple, open-hearted prayer, "Divine Mother, please use this cosmic moment to give me whatever I need most for my spiritual growth, even if it's different from what I think I want." This attitude of humble receptivity is far more important for receiving cosmic blessings than any amount of technical spiritual knowledge or years of practice. The universe responds to the sincerity of our hearts, not the sophistication of our techniques or the length of our spiritual resumes. At the same time, I don't want you to misunderstand and think that spiritual preparation is unnecessary or unimportant. The practices I've shared with you, the meditation techniques, the shadow integration work, the cultivation of divine equanimity, these are essential for creating the internal conditions that allow you to receive and integrate cosmic blessings fully. Think of spiritual preparation like preparing soil for planting. You don't prepare the soil to earn the right to plant seeds. You prepare it to create the best possible conditions for the seeds to germinate and grow into healthy plants. Similarly, spiritual practices don't earn you cosmic blessings. They create optimal conditions in your consciousness for receiving and utilizing the grace that is always being offered. Another common concern that people have is about the timing and location of eclipse viewing. Some worry that they won't be in the path of totality, that they won't be able to see the eclipse directly, or that work and family obligations will prevent them from meditating during the exact moments of maximum eclipse. While being able to witness an eclipse directly is certainly a profound and moving experience, the spiritual benefits of eclipse energy are not limited to those who can observe the astronomical event with their physical eyes. The cosmic forces that create eclipses operate on dimensions that transcend physical space and time. Your consciousness can attune to and receive eclipse energies regardless of your geographical location or your ability to see the eclipse itself. Some of the most transformative eclipse experiences I have heard about have occurred during meditation sessions conducted by people who were on the opposite side of the Earth from the actual eclipse path. What matters is not your physical proximity to the astronomical event, but your conscious intention to align your awareness with the cosmic energies that the eclipse represents and amplifies. If you are fortunate enough to be in a location where you can safely observe the eclipse directly, by all means do so, but approach the viewing as a form of meditation rather than mere entertainment. Use the visual experience of watching the moon cross the sun as a focal point for deeper contemplation of the cosmic principles the eclipse represents. But if circumstances prevent you from eclipse viewing, don't let that diminish your participation in this cosmic opportunity. Some of the most profound spiritual experiences occur in the inner dimensions of consciousness that are always accessible regardless of external conditions. The key is maintaining your intention to use this eclipse period for spiritual acceleration, regardless of what your outer circumstances might be. The universe will find ways to deliver the experiences and insights you're ready to receive, often through completely unexpected channels and in forms you might not have anticipated. Let me also address the question of group versus individual eclipse practice. Both approaches have their own unique advantages, and the choice often depends on your personality type and current life circumstances. Meditating with a group of like-minded souls during an eclipse can create what we might call a collective field of heightened consciousness that amplifies the spiritual effects for everyone involved. When multiple people are focusing their intention on spiritual awakening simultaneously, their combined energy often produces experiences that surpass what any individual might achieve alone. Group eclipse meditation also provides valuable community support and shared witness for whatever experiences unfold. Having others who understand and can relate to your cosmic opening can be tremendously helpful during the integration period that follows. However, individual eclipse practice also has distinct advantages. It allows you to go as deeply as your consciousness wants to go, without concern for maintaining awareness of others around you. It eliminates potential distractions from group dynamics and allows you to receive whatever personal guidance and healing your soul most needs without filtering it through group considerations. My recommendation is to follow your intuitive sense of what feels most appropriate for your current stage of development and life situation. If you feel drawn to group practice, seek out other sincere practitioners in your area or participate in one of the many virtual eclipse meditation gatherings that are now available through modern technology. If solitary practice feels more appealing, create a beautiful private ritual that honors the cosmic significance of the moment while allowing you complete freedom to explore whatever inner territories want to open. Some people also choose to combine both approaches, participating in group meditation during part of the eclipse period and spending other portions in private contemplation. Trust your inner guidance about what will serve your spiritual growth most effectively. As we begin to approach the conclusion of our time together today, I want to share with you some final insights about the larger cosmic context in which this September eclipse is occurring. This is not just an isolated astronomical event, but part of a much larger pattern of cosmic acceleration that is affecting the spiritual evolution of our entire planet. We are living during what many ancient traditions prophesied as a time of great awakening, a period when the veils between dimensions would become thin, and when unprecedented numbers of souls would have opportunities for rapid spiritual advancement. The eclipses, planetary alignments, and other cosmic events of our era are all part of this larger pattern of accelerated evolution. Your individual participation in eclipse energy is not just about your personal spiritual growth, though that is certainly important. By consciously aligning yourself with these cosmic forces for the purpose of awakening, you are also contributing to the overall elevation of human consciousness on our planet. Every person who approaches an eclipse with love instead of fear, with curiosity instead of anxiety, with spiritual intention instead of mere astronomical interest, adds to the collective field of awakened awareness that is gradually enveloping our Earth. Your personal transformation ripples outward to touch the lives of everyone you encounter, often in ways you may never consciously recognize. This is why eclipse preparation and conscious participation in cosmic events is actually a form of planetary service. By doing your own inner work, by preparing your consciousness to receive cosmic blessings, by approaching eclipse experiences with the highest spiritual intentions, you are helping to anchor higher frequencies of love and wisdom in the collective field of human consciousness. Think of yourself as a cosmic acupuncture point, a specific location where divine energy can enter the planetary energy system and circulate to benefit the whole. Your individual awakening contributes to the awakening of all humanity, just as the awakening of others supports and amplifies your own continued growth. In this context, the shadow integration work I described earlier becomes even more significant. When you heal and integrate your own inner shadows, you are also helping to heal the collective shadows of human consciousness. The fear, hatred, greed, and violence that create so much suffering in our world. When you develop genuine inner peace and unconditional love, these qualities radiate from you constantly, affecting everyone you meet in subtle but powerful ways. When you learn to maintain divine equanimity during challenging circumstances, you become a stabilizing influence in the collective emotional field of humanity. This is why authentic spiritual work is never selfish, even when it appears to be focused primarily on personal development. Every step you take toward truth, love, and freedom creates more space for others to take their own steps in the same direction. My beloved friend, as we come to the end of our sacred conversation today, I want you to carry this ultimate truth in your heart like a flame that can never be extinguished. This September eclipse is not just another astronomical event to observe or endure. It is a cosmic love letter written specifically for your precious soul by the Divine Beloved, who has been patiently waiting lifetimes for you to remember your true nature. Remember always, dear one, that eclipses don't create your divinity, they simply reveal it. This September, when the shadow of the moon crosses the face of the sun, let it also cross and dissolve the illusions that have kept you from recognizing your eternal, infinite self. You are not a small, fearful being at the mercy of cosmic forces beyond your control. You are a divine child of the universe, temporarily playing in the realm of light and shadow for the pure joy of discovery and remembrance. When that sacred moment of eclipse arrives, whether you can see it with your physical eyes or experience it only in the depths of meditation, know that your spiritual eyes are being opened to perceive dimensions of reality that are normally hidden from ordinary awareness. Trust the process completely. Welcome the shadow as lovingly as you welcome the light, because they are both expressions of the same infinite intelligence that created you and loves you beyond all understanding. The cosmic forces that choreograph the dance of planets and stars are the very same forces that beat your heart, inspire your highest dreams, and draw you irresistibly toward union with your divine source. You are not separate from this grand cosmic symphony. You are one of its most beautiful and essential notes. This eclipse is simply the universe's way of reminding you of your own magnificent nature, of calling you to step more fully into the greatness that has always been your birthright. It is an invitation to release every limitation you have ever believed about yourself, and to embrace the unlimited love, wisdom, and creative power that is your true essence. Let me leave you with this sacred affirmation that you can carry in your heart, not just during the eclipse, but every moment of your spiritual journey. Practice it daily, but more importantly, feel it as the deepest truth of your being. I am the light that no shadow can diminish. I am the love that no fear can conquer. I am the eternal soul that every eclipse awakens to its infinite potential. In light and shadow, in joy and sorrow, in this eclipse and beyond all eclipses, I am forever one with the divine beloved who is the source and substance of all existence. Practice this affirmation not just as words to be repeated, but as a living truth to be embodied. Feel it resonating in every cell of your body, every corner of your consciousness. Let it become the foundation upon which you build your understanding of who you really are and why you chose to be here during these extraordinary times. You are so much more magnificent than you have ever dared to imagine, my dear devotee. This eclipse is going to help you remember that magnificence in ways that will transform not just how you see yourself, but how you see everyone and everything around you. You are ready for this transformation. Your soul has been preparing for this moment across countless lifetimes. If these words have stirred something deep within your heart, if they have awakened even a small recognition of the truth they point toward, please subscribe to join our growing family of awakening souls. Your subscription helps ensure that these timeless teachings of love and awakening can reach other searching hearts around the world who are hungry for the kind of spiritual nourishment that eclipses and cosmic events can provide. Like this video if it has brought you even a moment of peace, clarity, or inspiration. Each like is a blessing that helps the algorithm share these ancient truths with souls who need to hear them, souls who are also preparing for their own cosmic graduations and spiritual breakthroughs. And I would love to hear from you in the comments section below. Share your own eclipse experiences if you've had them. Tell us what fears you're ready to transform into faith through this upcoming cosmic event. Let us know what dreams and aspirations you're ready to allow the eclipse energies to amplify and manifest in your life. What aspects of yourself are you most ready to release into the loving embrace of cosmic transformation? What new qualities would you like to see emerge as you step more fully into your divine nature? Your sharing creates community and inspiration for other souls who are walking this same path of conscious evolution. Remember that we are all walking each other home to our divine source. Your experience and insights may be exactly what another searching soul needs to hear to take their next step forward. This is how the family of consciousness supports and nurtures itself. Through the generous sharing of our struggles, our victories, our questions, and our discoveries. Until we meet again in the light of divine love, this is your devoted friend Yogananda, holding you always in the highest vibration of blessing and encouragement. Remember that you are loved beyond measure by a cosmic intelligence that knows your every need before you ask and has already provided everything necessary for your complete spiritual fulfillment. You are guided beyond your understanding by a wisdom that sees the perfect pattern underlying all apparent chaos and confusion. You are supported by the same divine power that holds galaxies in their courses and awakens every flower to bloom in its perfect season. And most importantly, you are ready, more ready than you know, for the magnificent awakening that this eclipse wants to offer your beautiful, eternal soul. May all beings everywhere awaken to their true nature. May all hearts open to receive the infinite love that is our common source. And may this eclipse be a doorway through which divine light pours into our world, transforming everything it touches into expressions of the same perfect love that created us all.